Welcome to episode 9 of Northern Lights, the online chat show which focuses on football in the north and northeast of Scotland. My name is Martin Johnston, and each week I'm joined by our resident journalist and fellow Rothes loon, Dave Edwards. Also joining Dave and I each week are three well-known names from North football, both from the past and the present. Just a few guys reminiscing about the good old days and from time to time giving a distanced opinion on the modern game. A bit like Soccer AM meets the Antiques Roadshow. In this week's show, we will be referencing Deveronvale, Keith, Huntley, Buckie Thistle, and of course, Rothes. Our first guest comes from a well-known footballing family dynasty. Paul D'Arcy had a playing career spanning almost 25 years, of which he spent 9 of those plying his trade down under. Having first joined Rothes in 1993, Paul then spent 5 seasons with Buckie Thistle before having spells with Huntley, Keith, Banchory St Ternan and back again to Rothes. In 2004, Paul took himself off to Australia when he signed for New South Wales club Ugali, where he became something of a local legend over a 9-year period. Welcome, Paul D'Arcy.
Good evening. How are you?
How are you doing, Paul?
Not too bad at all. Thank you. Thanks for your kind words.
Paul, welcome
Yes.
to the show.
Hello, Mr. Edwards.
How you doing,
Thank you.
D'Arcy? First of all, can I compliment you on your backdrop? It's absolutely stunning.
I just threw it. We're in the process of moving house, so it's I had to come up with something because we've got beds against walls and a bit of a mess in the spare room at the moment. So I had to improvise. So it's not bad. I think we'll get everyone in.
Yeah, well, you just stay there and we'll see more of Rothes badge. That's good.
So there's Keith, there's Rothes, there's Buckie, Huntley, and of course Ugali Soccer Club, the club I play for in Australia.
Excellent.
So,
there's only one thing missing, Paul. Where's the D'Arcy baseball cap?
oh well, since you did hear we mentioned Twitter, I had to get the Ugali cap on. So we're getting there, but no, I used to. There's normally a beanie I wear now. The hair's gone, so it's not great. It's normally just sun-tan lotion on the head now. Because I'm trying to make myself look a bit. I think if you look tan, you look thinner. But it's not working for me.
You've been to the golf course lately?
Oh, I think I've missed 2 days since it came back on the 29th of May. So I'd know what, blow smoke up more, well, blow my own trumpet, so to speak, but I shot one under a day, so I'm pretty pleased with the way things are going. But
wonderful.
Bounce games at the moment, but it's good. The course are looking great, and I think the weather was okay today. The sun was out, but I mean I'll play it. I'll get the waterproofs on and have a bash in the winter. So it's good. It's just good to be back playing. Good. I mean I've been doing a lot of walking over the past sort of 11 to 12, 13 weeks, and where I stay in Bridgedawn, I've been jumping off from the back of B&Q down to Marker, along through Royal Aberdeen, and out to Barracks and home again. So it was 6 miles, but it was sacrilege. I walked along the golf course, and you're thinking, why can't you be playing? Mm-hmm. You've got sort of, 100 people in B&Q and Tesco's, but there's no one in the golf courses. But I was doing a bit of walking with my golf partner, Scotty Taylor, another ex-Buckie and Keith player, and Jim Layton, ex-obviously Gothenburg hero in Deveronvale. So myself and Jim and Scotty, social distancing of course, would go for a wander around various courses. So we went to Trump one day, we parked at Balmedy Beach, and Jim and myself and Scotty nearly to carry Jim back, because Jim's getting on a bit, and it was 7.5 miles we walked, and Jim's legs aren't the greatest where he played. But kind of felt like, so it's been good with various courses, and it's just great to be back. I mean, it's obviously it's just got to be the new norm for until we get a vaccine for this terrible disease we're suffering overall. We're going through the pandemic at the moment, so look, it's the golf's getting there, and football back in the TV tonight, of course. And what happens next, you know?
That's it. Well, it's a pleasure to welcome to the show, D'Arcy. I was out this afternoon My pal will not be speaking to me. My pal Ali will not be speaking to me. I was 2 down with 3 to play, and would you believe I won the last 3 holes to beat him 1 hole? He's very happy. He's may happy.
Well, you'll get. I'm sure he'll get his. I'm sure he'll get his chance to come back and beat you again.
I'm sure he will. D'Arcy,
So
welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Dave.
Cheers.
Our second guest has an astonishing array of honours, despite having spent his entire senior playing career with only 1 club. Martin Stewart's name is synonymous with the golden years at Huntley Football Club, the 1990s and beyond. Martin can boast to have 6 Highland League winners' medals, plus 4 qualifying cup, 3 Highland League Cup and 5 Aberdeenshire Cup winners' medals. He made 489 squad appearances for Huntley, scoring 309 goals along the way. Welcome to Northern Lights, Martin Stewart.
Cheers, Martin. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Good to see you.
Martin,
Good to be here.
how you doing, Martin?
I'm fine, Dave. Aye.
Here's an icebreaker for you now. I mentioned this to your former teammate, John Gardner, a few weeks ago, and he was kind of circumspect. He didn't remember much about it. But if I throw you a game, Dumbarton against Huntley, and even more memorable, a night in the Dunblane Hydro after a 2-0 win, what memories does that bring back to you? Because it was a stunning night, wasn't it?
It was a great night, Dave, and well, it's just when I kind of started at Huntley. It was the first trip away. I mean, I'm pretty sure Dumbarton were top of 2nd division. They were supposed to beat us, no bother, but we won 2-0. Dave McGinley scored 2, and John Gardner was absolutely outstanding that day for once. And so we win the game, and for some reason we're staying at Dunblane Hydro. So how far Dumbarton to Dunblane Hydro, I don't know. But so we got a few beers in. The time we get back here, well, the first thing I mind, there's a band playing Jim McLeod's Scottish dance band. It was either hadn't it started or it was half time. Just at that, Brian Thompson and Arthur Murphy decided they would go on the stage, play the drums, the keyboards. I think Murphy was even singing. So I didn't go doing well and was asked to leave. So the guy, Alan Maitland, he was a sponsor. I think he was the chairman of Vale.
He was Ian Maitland.
Ian Maitland, sorry, aye.
Ian Maitland, aye.
He had a suite, so we ended up here for the rest of the night. Maybe 4 o'clock in the morning. We get up in the morning, and aforementioned George Gardner comes with 2 crates, 2 trays full of pints of beer. Now, only Ken's John, there's just no way he bought them. So it was presumed that he just poured them himself, Ken, because there's just no way he bought them. So, and the drink carried on, and the Daily Record photographer appeared, and there's a 2-page spread in the Daily Record. The team who won't go home can picture all the boys with the pints, nips. Sluggies had a bottle of vodka in his hand, and Pelly was there with the blazer and the tie on. He says, "Oh, I've been invited on to sports scene." This was on the Sunday. We Doogie Donnelly and Billy McNeil. So we're going to walk up the road and stop down by a pub to watch it, and here's Pelly sitting there looking. Probably think he was nervous, white-faced and fidgety. He was absolutely steaming. but only Pelly could carry it off. Ken got off with it. So it's first trip for me, first Scottish Cup adventure, and it was the start of many of them. It was great times.
It was a great night. I've got warm memories of that night. I was intending driving up the road. I was intending driving up the road. 2 things I remember from that day. I met a lovely lady, Dumbarton's most famous fan, Hazel Irvin, at the game. Tremlett was trying to chat her up, but it didn't work.
I'll tell you a story about Hazel Irvin. You can Big John Henderson, the boy that plays the darts, Hendo, the darts player.
Yeah,
Well, John was at the game, of course, and he was needing a pee at the side of things, so saying a pee, and Hazel walked by. She'd give him a heap of abuse about standing here in a pee again, so that was John's claim to fame at the time. Hazel Irvin was watching him.
Deary me. How do you improve on that? Well, that night I was supposed to drive home, and it was up in the suite up in Ian's suite. It got a wee bit hectic, and I landed up having 1 or 2 beers that I shouldn't have really have had. So, as it turned out, I shared a room with one of your teammates because another one of your teammates disappeared. I don't know where. I think you were headed for Glasgow. Did young Marco D'Arcy? So he was sharing a room with Alan Dunsire. So Dun said, you can head to Paris's bed because we'll never see him again tonight. So Dunce had his bed, I had D'Arcy's bed, and then I drove Dunce up the road the next morning. So he got home in good time.
I see Dunce's nae in up 40, that'll be the reason why. The 40 in the Daily Record, there's no sign of him in up 40.
That's right, I drove him up the road. Yeah. Happy days, Martin, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Dave. Cheers.
Cheers.
Our third and final guest is known in North football circles quite simply as the goalie. Ian Thain's first club was Caledonian FC, where he was signed on schoolboy forms for 3 seasons. However, he joined Deveronvale in 1983, and he would make 99 appearances for the Princess Royal Park side over a 3-year period. In 1986, Jimmy Wilson took Thainer to Kyneff Park, where he would spend 16 seasons collecting the Millennium League title along the way. After spells with the Marooney Local Works and Rangers and a brief spell in management for Man United, Ian called time on his footballing career. These days, Ian is known for his total domination of the after-dinner circuit as a master of ceremonies, a role that he carries out with the same amount of professionalism as that he did when he was a player. I always found him to be a gentleman both on and off the park. A very warm welcome, Ian Thain.
Thanks very much, Martin. Dave, thank you both for your invitation.
Despite the fact that you've put me and Dave out of business on the after dinner circuit, obviously.
I'm gunning for him. I'm gunning for him. I'm gunning for you, Thainer.
Actually, just on that, and just forgive me, Dave, I'm just getting across there. Dave, I can tell, and I'm still on his deck. Dave Edwards hosted my testimonial dinner way back in 1996, I think, Dave, the Longmore Hall in Keith with Ian St John and Bill McAllister.
I was still at school.
Thainer, funny you should mention that, Thainer, because now we're talking nonsense, aren't we? That was a strange night for me, because you know what story I'm going to tell at your testimonial dinner. There was a character there that night, and when I went across the road to the hotel, the Central Hotel, is it?
Royal Hotel. The
Royal Hotel, to go to my bed. I went up the 2 flights of stairs, and I nearly broke my neck. I fell over something or somebody. And here was the prostrate figure of a certain Dodo Murray, sleeping on the stairs. So I said, Dodo, you can't sleep here. I got him wakened. I said, look, there's a great big chair in the corner of my room. You sleep there, and nobody will break their neck falling over you. So I put Dodo in the chair. I woke up the next morning, and there was this big arm around me. So I looked round, and Dodo Murray in his drawers was not a pretty sight. So here's Dodo with his arm around me, and Dodo, what the heck are you up to? He says, Dave, I got cold in the night. I just thought I would crawl in beside you. So it was a memorable evening for more ways than one, Mr. Thain.
Happy days. Happy days, Dave.
Ian, delight to have you on the show. Thanks for coming.
No, thank you both very much for the invitation.
By the way, D'Arcy, you're right. The suntan doesn't work. Dave, viewing figures, again, we keep labouring the fact, but we've had a total of over just 6,500 viewers now since we started. That's averaging at just over 800 a show. I think there's not many Highland League clubs that would balk at that kind of figures on a Saturday. Yeah. The only difference is we're free. So that maybe that's a difference. And I'll be stuck at here and they've got nothing better to do with themselves. Any shout-outs this week, Dave?
No, we've been very, very quiet on the shout-outs for tonight. And surprisingly, nobody got my heat scratcher, would you believe? So it's either was too hard a question or too easy a question, everyone knew it. But
okay, maybe some of the guys here would remind us what the question was?
Yeah, the question was, Claggan Park, Fort William, shares something with one other senior ground in the country. What is that? There's something at Claggan Park that you'll find at one other senior ground in the country. What is it?
A mountain.
What's that?
A mountain.
No, no, no. Well, there is a mountain not far away. No, but it's not a mountain, no.
Not the
It's a
sheep.
heap scratcher.
It's not the sheep that used to creep onto it in the early days of Fort William, is it?
No, no, loads of sheep and a lot of deer a couple of years ago as well. Remember that they cleared the park of deer poo before they held the game? No.
It's not the fact that you can play across or up and down.
No, that's a good one though, Das, because you can certainly do that at Claggan Park. Do you give in?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Along with Brecon City, both clubs, Fort William and Brecon City, have got a hedge along part of the perimeter instead of a wall. There's a hedge along by the old enclosure at Claggan Park. And immediately opposite the main stand on the far side, you've got the hedge, the full length at Glebe Park.
You should have kept that, D'Arcy, because you've got a few Fitbits stuck in that hedge over the years, I would think.
No, I've got a story about Fort William later on as well.
Dave, we actually have had one sort of half shout out through the YouTube channel. Now, I don't know if it's a gentleman or a lady, to be quite honest, someone by the name of Kyo-chan from Japan. We now have a follower from all the way from Japan. I have got a phonetic welcome to the Northern Lights here, but I'll maybe just give that a miss in case I find
go on, Martin. Go on, Martin.
Ororai Yokosho. So we'll have a legal case probably to answer tomorrow morning.
Martin, that's why you look like Mr. Miyagi.
But of course, Dave, it's not a surprise that there's followers of the Highland League in Japan, is it?
No, because a friend of ours, good friend of all of ours, was the first Brit to be a professional footballer and taste life in football in Japan. We spoke him up already. It was, of course, legendary Pele, Steve Patterson.
Yep, I believe he was known as a Highland Samurai when he was out there. So there you go.
He was also a male model over there. A male model, Pele was, yep.
I know he was advertising on billboards in the middle of Tokyo, and hey-ho. How times have changed. Anything else for us, Dave, before we move on?
Well, one thing we haven't mentioned, we know at the credits at the start of the programme, where the programme's brought to the viewers in association with Football Memories Scotland. But since then, we've been approached, and Martin, you can tell us a little bit more about it. We've been approached by Alzheimer's Scotland, an equally meritorious charity who want to be associated with what we do.
Yeah, they work hand in hand with Football Memories Scotland, as you'll appreciate. And we'd spoken to them very early doors about what we were doing, and we've said that this is an amateur show, obviously, and that should it be a success, there might have been an opportunity for some sponsorship, etc. But we decided that we didn't want to do that. We've got zero expense, so we'd far rather have an association with two very worthwhile causes, such as Alzheimer's Scotland and Football Memories Scotland. Because believe it or not, guys, there's a lot of people out there who will get a great value from this show, and respect it will trigger great memories for them. And if we having a bit of fun for an hour and a half, couple of hours, can help those of us who are not quite so fortunate with remembering days of old. If we can help trigger one or two memories and make somebody a wee bit happier, then it's a pretty worthwhile cause. So you're doing your bit. So we're delighted to be associated with both Football Memories and Alzheimer's Scotland.
Just sorry, Martin. Just on that, I was speaking to Bruce Martin, ex-Keith, won a league with Keith in I think 77 and 78, I think, and he does a lot with Alzheimer's lot at Pataudry. So he might be a person to have a chat to as well. Yeah, well, I've seen Bruce has actually been at Balmoor. We have a Football Memories Day, which is hosted by Natty Porter, and Bruce has come in and seen me in the office on a couple of occasions. So yeah, it's a really worthwhile cause. And guys, anybody out there, if they get an opportunity to
things like, there's the Facebook pages for various Highland League sites, etc. These guys get a great deal of comfort. I tell a lot of people the story about the day Greg Carroll took his dad up to Balmoor just to pop in and say hello. And Nat Porter had said at the time, "Oh, I've got a great photo through the house. Take your dad through to have a look." And I'm sure Greg wouldn't mind telling us, me saying that he'd said that, "Oh, this will be difficult because, my dad's really got real difficulty remembering, most things." Well, he took him through into the room and he showed them the photo and he told everybody, every player in the photo. Mm-hmm. So there you go. So, like I say, if we can do our own wee bit, then we're doing something worthwhile. Excellent. Talking of memories, Dave, on this day, we're still finding wee snippets. 1983.
1983, a little snippet. It wasn't mind-blowing news, but one of North Football's leading characters at the time was considering hanging up his boots, and I'm sure there was a lot of midfielders and other not teammates, but opponents were very glad of this fact. And the man considering hanging up his boots in 1983 was none other than Clach legend, Caley legend, and former Highland councillor Peter Corbett. And by Jove, did Peter Corbett have a dig, didn't he? Peter.
Sure. Aye, that's for sure. I think he must have played on. Did he actually retire then for Dave, or did he play on a bit?
It doesn't say it here, but I think he did play on for a wee while after that.
I think he did. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know Peter.
If am I right saying, Dave, the newspaper report is a compassionate plea by the reporter in question for him not to hang up his boots?
That's exactly what it was. It was Hamish Black was the journalist, big Hamish, just before my time. I remember Hamish Black, and Peter had given lots of special moments in the game, and Hamish Black felt that Peter had at least one, maybe even 2 seasons left in him. And I think, as you say, Thain, he did go on to play with distinction for another couple of seasons. And of course, at one time he was chairman of Clach-na-Curran, having been in the board there. I think he was chairman at one time of Clach as well.
Yeah, I think if I remember rightly, I know he was certainly a league winner at Caley, and I think he would have been a league winner at Clach as well. So certainly a hugely successful player. He was at Caley when I was there as a schoolboy.
Yeah,
he'd be an interesting guest sometime, maybe, Dave.
I think he really would, and I think he may well be an interesting guest sooner rather than later.
You never know. Dave.
I think he played. He must have a spell at Thistle as well. I think he played with my dad at Thistle.
Possibly did.
Because I remember he was you touched on the chairman of Clach, and Horatio Fraser was the gaffer at Clach at the time. So obviously, my dad being at Thistle in the early 70s, it was good to meet Peter and Roshi when they were sober.
There's a name from the past, Horatio. Roshi Fraser. What a player Roshi was as well.
Horatio would be the safest statue in the country at the moment.
Brilliant.
Dave,
so can I kick the ball off and have a word with the fellow goalkeeper, Ian Thain? Many people might not know this, but you did start your Highland League career at Inverness Caledonian.
Yeah, that's right. I went there as a schoolboy farm. I was brought up in Nairn, went to Nairn Academy. I was playing in the Nairn Welfare League, I think at the age of 14, and training with Nairn St Ninian, and got the opportunity, having been spotted, I think, in the Welfare League, where you're really playing with mannies at a tender age, and I got the opportunity. The late great Rod Klein was actually the secretary of Caley at the time, and he stayed in Nairn as I did, came to the house, got the opportunity to go there, and I had from the age of 14 to 17, I had 3 years there. I was never going to get near the first team. I played in the youths. I about some of the habits. I played one game in the first team, believe it or not, Martin. It was at Huntley, and before the great Huntley side as well. Our first two goalkeepers were injured. I played one game, we lost 4-1. I was a hugely nervous and completely and utterly incompetent 16-year-old. So that was the first of a few. I should have known that was a sign of things to come at Christie Park, but more about that later, I'm sure. So I had that one game, Dave, but the one thing I would say, some of the habits and the standards at Caley, you're looking at Caley, that was 1979 to 82, I was there. And although I wasn't near to the first team, the standards were completely and utterly throughout the club. A chap there who was the head of youth was John Beaton, who went on to co-manage Caley and also was managed at Nairn. Sadly passed away last year, and I was at his funeral. And in fact, you could see the influence John had in so many people, so many footballers round about the Inverness area, probably over 50 years, by the players and ex-players that were at his funeral. So a lot of what John and his staff taught me at that time were a lot of great habits that stuck with me, throughout my career. So it was very much a learning curve, but a great opportunity. A couple of the guys that I played in the youth did go on to have Super Caley careers. Martin Lyle, an absolute legend. Alan Duff, who came through at Caley, but had probably most of his best years at Ross County in their league winning side. But guys like that I knew since a young age. They were both probably about a year older than I was. So yeah, not a lot of people know that, as they say, but it was a great learning curve. It really was. It was fantastic, and I'm indebted to Caley for the opportunity I got then.
You mentioned Martin Lyle. What a player he was in the middle of the park, and his twin sons are both playing Highland League football. One at Strathspey Thistle, one at Formartine United, if I'm not wrong.
That's exactly right. And I met them. They're actually triplets, Dave. Believe it or not. I think there's a sister as well. And
who does she play for, Thain?
I don't know, but in this day and age, Dave, it could well be. But I met Scott and I think it's Cameron, the other lad. I met them when they were at Brora. Because I said to them the one thing that they're probably fed up of hearing from us old guys when they as they're coming through, they're going, "Oh, I played against your dad," But no, Martin was an enormous part of a hugely successful, Caley side. Around about that time, and sort of into the 80s, the late great Alan Hercher, Bob Summers, Kevin Mann, Billy McDonald. Billy McDonald was the first team goalkeeper when I was at Caley, so training with someone like Billy. And Alfie Ross, ex of Forest Mechanics, was reserve at the time. Training with guys like that for me as a young goalkeeper was quite phenomenal.
Yeah, good guy, Billy McDonald. I played with and against Billy. A good goalkeeper. Started with Clark, finished up at Caley. Had a great career there. Yeah,
no, fantastic. Super guy. I bumped into him a few years ago. I hadn't seen him in a long time. And fantastic goalkeeper, fit guy, incredibly agile. And at the time, he and Bobby Gray were the two best goalkeepers in the Highland League by a long way.
Thanks for that, Thain. Great start to the show. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Paul, you first started out in the juniors with Bonaccord Juniors, now defunct, obviously. But what was your background as far as juveniles, etc.? I mean, obviously, you must have been playing football at a very early age, given that your dad is Brian D'Arcy and your uncle is Dennis D'Arcy.
Well, it's funny. We had a fantastic primary school team who, and Michael Brown, current Keith assistant manager, he was in my Muggsy, he was in my primary school, and a fellow journalist who currently working with the BBC, used to call him Teapot, Big Tyrone Smith. So with a great team, we won a league, and then we went on to win there was a Bridgedawn Cup, which we won, and we were beaten in the Wallaby Cup final by Seaton, who were pipped to the league, but we won a league in goal difference. And then, since we're such a great side, Muggsy's dad Derek, and the goalkeeper Ronnie Smollett, Ronnie Senior, they coached with my dad. So There was a team called Scotstoun Albion, and we weren't very good, to be brutally honest. But we plugged away. So after the first season, the age group, if you were born after August, you could actually play the year below. So I'm a May birthday, so I had to stay the current year. So I was playing against guys a year older, so to speak. So
we used to call that in our day being kept back a year, but it's all right. We understand what you mean.
I was playing with the big boys. I was playing with the big boys. So I mean, the guys in our sort of age group was Shuggy Robertson, Hughie, Roy McBain, Derek Smith, ex-Keith as well. And look, it was good coming through. And then when I was 17, my dad, he'd taken us as far as he could. I think he wanted to play. I mean, my dad was still only 42. He went away and signed for, because when we played on a Saturday, my dad would play Sunday welfare on a Hazelhead on a Saturday Sunday morning, and he was playing with likes of Jim Gerrard, who ex-Elgin City, and there was a couple older guys that played in the Sunday welfare. So my dad enjoyed it, but then I think he missed it, so he went back and signed for Lads Club Juniors, and it was Alan Presley, Priscilla's old man, Paul's old man, who was a manager at the time. So he got my dad back involved, and I went and signed for Banks of DA, which was under 18s, and I played with Kerr Gibson, ex-Cove, and Lokies, and Scotty Buchan. Obviously, he was at Lokies manager not that long ago. So look, with a decent side, up to Deveronvale side, and we were coached by a guy called Larry Leaper. Now, Larry wasn't a shrinking violet, skinhead, solid, muscly sort of boy. And we went to Deveronvale side, we beat 2-1. The referee would have, he made a mistake, so Larry took a grievance, this mistake, and then threatened to stick a head in him. So he was
allegedly.
Oh, he did. He was then sin died. So there was a connection with Hull Russell Juniors. So I went and played. I'm not sure if you played this, but Martin, you're going to remember. We went up and played Huntley at Christie Park, and obviously the guys in the middle of the park was Stevie Lennox, Eddie C, and Flash. And I was up against Marco, and I thought, Kenneth, I just didn't feel that much out in the depth, but I just wasn't. I wasn't fit. Which I probably never fit my whole career. But I went up and I gave a good account of myself, and I gave me a sort of appetite to progress. So then Johnny Carroll was in charge of Hull Russell Juniors. He sort of chipped me, and then a guy Phil Breen, George Breen, his brother played for Forest Mechanics. He took us along to Bonaccord training, and there was guys like Gary Hake, ex-Rothus, and obviously Bucky manager, and obviously as I touched on Scotty Taylor, I still play golf with Scotty for my sins. I mean, just a walk off. We're with a good young side, and so I signed for Bonaccord, and then I see myself as a 17-year-old loon with the shirt, the tie, the blazer, in Charlie's on a Saturday night with a bottle of X in one hand and a packet of cola bottles in the other hand. So it was a mix. But yeah, I enjoyed the transition at Bonaccord, but then went to a trial with Montrose, and went down, and Les Barr, who I think Dennis touched on Les Barr when he was on the show a couple of weeks ago, the legend. He scored that goal against Hibs in the quarter-final League Cup. Anyway, Les is. He said this. We'll play wide right, and Kevin Harper, as against Hibs, Kevin Harper played that night, and I believe Mickey Weir played that night as well. So two experienced pros, and so I'm Les Barr 10 minutes in, threw my pair of tyres. So I get his pair of tyres, ties up my socks. My socks are above my guards, and goes in at half time. It was 0-0 half time. I'd hit the post. I was doing all right. And then this boy came in about and went boom, through all the players, and he says, "You laddie, you're down here to impress me. You're walking about like George Best with your socks rolled down." And I'm like, "What the fuck's this?" And unbeknown to me, it was John Holt who was the gaffer at the time. Now, John Holt had a mouth up, and I remember him. He played for Dundee United, but he was clean shaven. I just didn't know him for Adam. But anyway, that was the end of the Montrose days. But that was it. But yeah, so Bonaccord was good. And I got actually, I think Dennis touched on it as well. I got a chance to play against my dad and my uncle. So I can remember skipping past Derris and getting clattered from my dad. And I think we won 9-1 against, and it was a cup tie against Inverurie Juniors. But then I was transfer listed. I come back from Munich on holiday. I only found out I come back from Munich on holiday because the guy who transfer listed me told me 2 weeks ago at a golf course. So I played both games, and 20 minutes in, he's up with the boards, and he's like, "D'Arcy, off you come." 20 minutes in, I'm like, so if you're Keith Park, and I was before the stand that's there now, there used to be a steps up to an old house which was the changing rooms. So Dodge, it was for Martin we were playing, and there was Craig Main and Ryan Mackay, and there was a lot of my school pals were playing for Martin, and Ryan Mackay, his father Ross was a manager. So Ross is like, "Oh, off you go," and I was furious. And I stood at the bottom of the stairs, and George Robertson and Neil Forbes were the gaffer. Neil's ex-Montrose. And I says, "Dod, what's the story?" He says, "Well, D'Arcy," and he sort of shrugged his shoulders. I says, "You can shove your team up here." He says, "Tell you what, leave your bag and your blazer on your way out." I says, "I'll leave my bag. I'm not leaving my blazer. It's freezing." So that was the end of my Bonaccord days, and I was transfer listed.
Oh well. So you're no one for a knee-jerk reaction at the very least.
Oh well, I mean, as I said, I touched base with George, a member, Dodds, a member, Umaker as well, and I just seen him this afternoon, and he was saying that, unbeknown to me, that my dad phoned him up. My dad's like, "What's your story with Paul? You've dropped him." He says he's not getting a game. He says, "If you look back at team sheets, I never missed a game. I think it was just the fact I just came back from holiday. 10 days in Munich in October isn't conducive to good football." So that was that. But then
maybe the suntan didn't work then either.
Well, no. Well, I'll tell you, I go to Munich every October, and I think either a week or 10 days. We'd go away for a week and play indoor football. So we'd play in a place about an hour north of Munich, a place called Deggendorf, and then we'd play in the Czech Republic. When I was in the Czech Republic at 16, which was a right eye opener, just 2 years after the wall came down, and we each changed a fiver. We couldn't spend it, and then we'd play in Austria, and we'd play against different five-a-side teams. And it was good, and I was fortunate enough to venture at Oktoberfest 6 times as well. But that's a story for another forum.
I'm sure. Paul, thanks for that. Dave.
Thank you.
Martin Stewart, what a career, but it started in quite humble surroundings. I think another Huntley legend, Charlie Mann, also played for Huntley Amateurs.
Yes, he did. I've seen a photo of him. But, well, I was playing for Middlefield County, and that's juveniles in Aberdeen, under 16s, and for 2 years I was the centre half. I couldn't get a game up front. So when that finished, under 16s, it was, well, at that time there was no way to go really, so just play with Huntley Amateurs like the rest of the boys. Also, not just Huntley Amateurs, you played for Kennethmont in the Donside League. I think I heard Charlie Rowley saying he played now. I think if you played for amateurs, you played for Kennethmont, so you could be playing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But if one thing I did, it toughened me up, playing against like real men, like hammer throwers in the Donside League. I mean, I can mind a game at one of our players were playing against Keig, bad tackle on a young kind of boy. Well, he was chased out the ground, out the gates and up the tune. It's just crazy, like. But I mean, I enjoy playing for amateurs, and then I got a shout for Tiger Porter at Elgin City. They were in a good run in the BP Youth Cup. They'd just beaten Partick Thistle, but if memory serves, now something happened to their centre forward. I'm sure the guy Dougie Green, something happened. They either got injured or something happened, and they were a player down. And Tiger worked at RB Farker in Huntley, so somebody had said, "Oh, maybe this boy's no bad." So got a phone call, and I played a game for him. So must have done all right because we'll get to the quarter-final. They're playing against Morton at Carpolo. So we do there and we beat them 2-1, and luckily I scored the winner. So that's us into the semi-final of the BP Youth Club. So played a few more games, and then we're playing Dundee United at Borough Briggs in the semi-final. I mean, I don't kind of crowd, but for me it was a huge crowd. I don't care exactly what it was. I mean, they were way too good for us. I mean, Christian Daly was playing, Gary Boland, Andy McLaren. I mean, they were a top team, and it was like 6 or 7-1 maybe. So that was that. And the next shout, Tiger phones, the boy for Dundee United went to here, look at you as a trial. He says, I'm a Huntley Amateurs player, you better speak to them, okay? So they phoned up Huntley Amateurs. I went to come and watch you play. Now, here's a scenario here. Huntley Amateurs sometimes played at this pitch at Connethment. It's got mole hills and everything, a little wee place, about 1,200 foot behind it. And the game of boy wants to come and watch is Huntley Amateurs v Achnagat Barons at Connethment. You couldn't mark it up, Ken. I've got absolutely no idea of what he thought. But he come to the game, play the game, and I must have done all right because I got the shout to go down for a trial match. So we go down, the Huntley Amateurs manager, Jim Penny, he would take my doing. And I think it was maybe a youth team. It was none of the first team. Daly and them was playing, so I think it was maybe a youth team thing again. So it was like, well, it wasn't 10 minutes into the game. The defender got a ball and he broke out. I just let him go, okay? Bear in mind that I've been playing for Huntley Amateurs in Connethment and had zero coaching. I mean, the only time somebody tracked back in amateurs if there was a fight going on far back. So, so the game, stop the game, I shout for the side. Here's Jim McLean. And he actually walked onto the pitch, I could tell he wasn't happy, like. It's been absolutely mental, and I just totally, I felt it was out of order again. I mean, I didn't care no better. I should have been tracking back, the hell's this and that. So, I mean, the game was played and that was it. Thanks, but no thanks, but that was the first I seen of Jim McLean in Dundee United anyway. But it was good. It was a good start for me, and then obviously for there, it went for signing for Elgin and maybe signing for Huntley, but maybe that's for another bit, is it?
Yeah. You mentioned Tiger Porter. Tiger's still at Elgin, I think. He was looking well last time. He lost a wee bit of weight. He was looking really well. His late brother Robbie actually played. Martin, you may not know this. Robbie Porter was a fullback with Forest Mechanics, Bucky Thistle. He was a plumber actually. Forest Mechanics, Bucky Thistle, and of course Rothes. Robbie Porter was a fullback with them, and really good player and a really nice guy, Robbie.
Tiger's a great man in that, Ken, and I kind of let him do it, but I'll maybe go and speak about that a little later.
I think Robbie's brother, do you say?
Tiger.
Tiger's Robbie's brother. Well, I think Robbie Junior, I think was known as Bullet, and he played junior football in Elgin, possibly Caberfay, New Elgin, that kind of clubs from my time. So obviously he passed on the genetics to his son as well.
Well, that Dundee United team was, in fact, the Elgin City team, I was an Alan Porter. It wasn't the Tigers, but he could possibly have been a son of Robbie you speak of.
Possibly.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thanks for that, man. Appreciate that.
Ian, how does a Nairn boy sign for Deveronvale?
Well, a rub of the green, to be honest, Martin. By the time that came around, I'd been through in Aberdeen at college for about a year. Had played the odd game, but nothing major, and completely unrelated to anything. Deveronvale were playing a cup tie in which their goalkeeper, Gordon Mackay, broke his hand. And in those days, there was only one goalkeeper. Now, a chap called Alan White had just taken over, an English chap. He'd been at Bucky Thistle as manager, and he'd just taken over at Deveronvale. This was probably August, September '83. So he obviously had to get a goalkeeper. He didn't have any other signed goalkeepers, and he had to get one in a hurry because they had a cup tie the following week. And he approached Mike Ritchie, a former Highland League goalkeeper who went on to be one of our leading referees in the Highland League and beyond. And Mike had actually been playing with Nairn County prior to that. And during that summer, when I'd been home in Nairn, I'd been training with Nairn briefly, and said to Mike, that was through in Aberdeen. But anyway, Alan White had approached Mike Ritchie. Mike couldn't commit to go and play for the Vale due to his job. He's a nurse at Ladiesbridge. So he very kindly passed Alan White on to me. Alan White had to sign me without seeing me play, which is probably the only reason he signed me. But because there was a cup tie, he had to sign. So he went and whoever he'd asked, whatever inquiry he made, I signed. And I actually made my debut against Elgin City in the qualifying cup it was the quarter-final of the qualifying cup, which we'll all remember was the days when it was a final in itself, when the four semi-finalists obviously qualified for the Scottish. So the Vale, I'm pretty sure it was that stage, we were at home to Elgin City. We lost 4-0 very comfortably to a side that had Mike McHattie in goal, Frazee Kellis, Norman Kellis, Jim Guyan, I think probably Jim Blacklaw. And I remember going to shake hands with Mike McHattie at the end of the game. Mike McHattie's a wonderful goalkeeper, played with Elgin City and Peterhead. When he shook hands with me, his hand literally almost came to my elbow. And I remember looking at this giant of a man as I came off, and I thought, I'm never going to cut it in this league. But anyway, that was how I got my chance, but it was only going to be, Martin, it was going to be a short-term thing until Gordon was fit. I think if I remember rightly, Gordon had 1 or 2 complications with the injury, and I ended up there for a bit longer, and things kind of gathered a bit of pace. I ended up there for three very happy seasons.
Yeah, my good friend Stuart McPherson tells me, and you were there pre-Stuart McPherson days, but you made 99 appearances. Why not 100?
So he tells me, but you know, I didn't know that at the time. Obviously, you don't do. These statistics tend to come out once you're finished. And I'll tell you when it actually did come out. After I was finished playing, so bear in mind I was 40 when I finished, and I was actually being stopped for about a year or two. And I was actually, I mean, we'll come on to the Formartin piece later, I'm sure, Martin, but I was assistant at Formartin to Dave Cormie. Dave had just gone to Huntley, and I was looking at becoming manager at Formartin. Deveronvale, who were managed at that time by Greg Carroll, their goalkeeper had been sent off on the Saturday at this time. I mean, I'm talking, 2005 or whatever, 2006 maybe. So Greg phoned me up and he said, look, my goalkeeper's suspended. I've only got a young 16-year-old. I'd really rather have someone with a bit of experience. Would you come and do me a turn for one game? I said, Greg, no, I can't. I said, I'm 42 or whatever I was. I said, I haven't played for a couple of years. I wouldn't be comfortable. I'd be conscious I'd let you down. I had the leg breaks in the past, etc. And he came back to me and he went, well, listen, Stuart McPherson saying you've played 99 games. It'll be 100th game, so how about that then? And I said, I'm really flattered that you've asked me. I said, no. So that was when it came to light, Martin, a lot of years later. But you're right, Stuart, I think, became, because we've had this conversation since, I think he became secretary just after I left the Vale in 86.
Yeah, I think Stuart's of the opinion you only played 99 games because you heard Stuart was joining the club and you were off.
I think it's probably more likely that Stuart only agreed to become secretary if they got rid of me.
I'm sure that's the case here. Thank you, Dave.
No, I had three super years there. Played with a lot of characters. And just, if I may, just one thing.
Yeah,
and
certainly.
On the Vale side, we were near the bottom. I often say that we were third bottom when I went there, and I think by the end of each of my 3 seasons we'd reached bottom. But the one little bit of the closest we came to success, we got the Aberdeenshire Cup final, played Huntley at Christie Park, Martin, and we lost 4-0, and it was a fairly average Huntley side, with the greatest respect. It was before the day, wasn't it? And they beat us 4-0, and I believe it was the first trophy Huntley won under the chairmanship of Forbes Shand. So that would have been, I think, season 85, 86.
86.
Was it? Aye. So it would have been. I think it would have been April '86, Martin. So that was as close as we got with the Vale. But I mean, I played with some characters there. One of whom was Raymond O'Hara. Played with Alan Forbes and James Perry and Davy Wilson and Gary McDonald. And Ray O'Hara was actually on his way back. You know, he was on his way down, if you like. He'd had his halcyon years at Keith. He came for a season. We became good friends. He was at the end of his time. I was at the start of mine. And the people in Banff, as in most Highland League towns, are fantastic. And they invited us to join them for New Year. Raymond and I went there for New Year, and Hogmanay that year was on a Monday. Due to the postponement of our game the following Saturday, we returned home to Aberdeen on the following Sunday. It was a 6-day Hogmanay in Banff. I don't think any of us could do that nowadays.
Oh, wow.
Super club. And I listened to Kevin Brenner last week, Dave, and he was talking about some of the characters, you know, Biz and guys like that, God rest him, and a lot of the committee guys, a lot of the guys off the park, the Valley crew, superb supporters, and were always very, 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 very good to me, you know, even when I went back there with Keith. Super people.
Kevin sang the song for us last week. You going to do it, Thain?
So, you know, I'll tell you, Dave, I was singing along when I heard him sing it, the Valley.
Let's move on. Paul D'Arcy. Biggest signing ever for you, signing for Rockets, I'm sure, Paul.
Of course, was the Thain.
So then a Saturday Darsh. It's a story for the Keith days, guys. We're not being rude, we'll come on to it, but if you know the Drifters and you know what happens at Saturday night at 8 o'clock, then...
Anyway, yeah, so I was been transfer listed from Bonaccord, and there was a couple of junior clubs come in, but because I'd played most games and there's more cup competitions than anything else, it was 5 or 6 cup competitions in the junior league at that time. I was cup tied in nearly every cup, so there was a couple of calls. I got a call from Neil McLennan, who was the Deveronvale manager at the time, who had a successful period with Kincorth Amateurs, and went up to Deveronvale. Then Ernie Drews, who played with my dad at Thistle and had a lengthy Highland League career, he came on the phone, and I just thought, I don't know why, but there was just something about it. So Ernie sold me the club. Graham Scott was the gaffer. I went to training. Now, bearing in mind, we'd played Rothes in a pre-season friendly with Bonaccord. Colin Smith playing left side of midfield, myself playing right side of midfield. I think he stuck the ball through his legs. He took a version to it. So I've done it again. He clattered me. So the two of us are rolling about beside the home, which is now the home dugout, throwing punches at one of our handbags. So I'm now out to sign for Rothes. Now the game was off. The first training session I went to was at Aberlour Academy, and I can remember walking in and Smithy looking at me and going, he was raging. He was raging. So I went up and I didn't sign. You didn't have to sign to play in the North Cup. So my debut was against Nairn at Station Park, and I've just actually, I might have blocked off for a second there. Tommy Madden tried to call me through Messenger on the phone. So anyway, Tommy Madden, he took the ball off my toe, and I 1-1 draw, stuck it in the top bin for 25 yards. To be fair, it was on my left foot. My left foot was for standing on, so I probably would have missed anyway. So Tommy got us a draw, but Tommy had a night out back in Aberdeen, and I was working on Saturday morning. So I took my car to the 8 acres at Elgin. So Tommy asked for a lift on the road, and I kid you not, my ears were bleeding from Elgin all the way into Bucksburn. Tommy can talk. Oh, it was just ridiculous. So that was my sort of first season, and so that was January, and then through the first season we plugged away a bit. But I remember we played Lossiemouth and Tommy Madden again, Ian Stewart. So Tommy had been at Lossy with wee Stewarty, and for me he was one of the best players to grace the Highland League. And Tommy's like, aye, if he goes for a shite, I'll go to the toilet and I'll follow him. I'll follow him everywhere. Man-to-man job and Stewarty. 4-0 done at half time, and Stewarty had scored 3. So it was a learning curve. But I remember we played Lossie again on a Wednesday night in McKessick, and it was actually a decent crowd for a Wednesday night, and it seemed to be a decent crowd, and 2-2, we get a draw, snatch a draw in the last sort of 5 minutes. So driving down the road, comes into Blackburn, and Colin Smith was driving the bus, the little purple Volkswagen Combi that Rothes had. There was about 6 of us in this bus, and Smithy's like, "Come down the hill to Blackburn. This isn't working. Something's wrong." So to be fair, we rolled down into Blackburn, past the chipper, then up the other side, and then come back in, and they hit the phone it was midnight before we got home, and I can remember Fritz, Colin Henderson, jumped in with the guy towing the tow truck, towing the bus. He's waving at us at the side of the road because we had to wait to get taken back into Bucksburn. But yeah, look, that was the first sort of season. The second season started really well. Obviously, you had the round robin cup tie thing. I think we had Keith, Bucky, and Huntley. So we played we played Keith first and Bucky on the Wednesday night or Tuesday, whatever night it was, and then we played Huntley at Rothes on the Saturday. And I think we got beat 4-2, and I was up against Marco Flash again, and I thought I could see myself getting there. So I remember sticking the ball through his legs, and then I'm up against Doug Rugby, and I've tried to stick the ball through his legs, and I've just run into him, and he's looked up at me. So I'm in the deck. I've looked up at him and said, "Don't you ever do that to me again." So big lad, he's quite an intimidating figure was Doug. So anyway, that night we're down the road on the bus. I left my carbs at 4 Mile. Ends up nightclub. A couple of pals had just come back from Corfu. So we're at the old phone box in Union Terrace. So my mate met a bird from Manchester on holiday. So we're on the phone, 2 o'clock in the morning. We're on our way down. D'Arcy's driving. So I got from my mate's car back to the 4 Mile, picked up my car, back to into town, down the road, got 3 miles this side of Perth, fell asleep at the wheel, and I broke my ankle. So something else I'll touch on slightly later on. So I broke my ankle. So I was out for the best part of 3 months. I went on loan to play with Inverurie Juniors with my dad, which was an experience. But then I came back and would sign John Teasdale, which I found the boys were saying it was quite interesting because obviously when Elgin won the league but didn't win the league, I think Rothes was one of the clubs that allegedly voted against Elgin winning the league. So Johnny came in about, and I kid you not, Thainer's got some bad gear, Scotty Taylor's got some bad gear, but no one has got quite as bad gear as Johnny Teasdale. Oh my goodness. But what a character and what a player. I mean, I remember with a game against, used to play New Elgin on a Wednesday night, play an amateur team or a junior team on a Wednesday night, get Aberdeen boys up, we train on Monday in Aberdeen up the road, try and get a game more often than not. So John used to get a ball at his feet. He was getting on a bit, get a ball at his feet and he move it. And I pinged the ball in the corner for him. So he's running up towards Forsyth's at Rothes. He's flat out and he's kept in by about 2 inches and niches up with the flag just to annoy John. So it was an experience. Playing with guys like that, it was a learning curve. And then we went to my first season in the Highland League was Caley, Thistle and Ross County's last. So I feel very fortunate. My old man won the league with Thistle 71-72. Sorry, 70-71, 71-72. So I'd heard about the great Inverness Thistle sides, and I was very fortunate to play at Kingsmills. And a guy called Charlie Cuthbert was the chairman at the time. He took us into the boarding master of games. So he went looking at photographs of your dad. So perfect. How's your father? And a bit of crack. He said, "What do you want to drink?" I said, "Can I have just a Coke or something?" Because I was just a young loon. He said, "I'll get you. We'll need something stronger." So he gave me a vodka. Didn't any Coke. It was lemonade, and it was 4 parts vodka and a wee touch of lemonade. So it was an experience, but it was good to actually play at Kingsmills and experience that. I think I might have played our last game of the season. That season was Caley at Caley Park, and that was quite a daunting place. We've only got to play there once, but quite a daunting place to go in. Bogle scored with a cross-come shot, put in the far bin. But yeah, look, even going to Elgin, I remember going to Elgin, and I was getting treatment at the far side, hit in the back of the head by a jelly baby. So maybe they knew I was going to be fat later on in life, so they were trying to fatten them up back then. But no, look, it was Rothes for me. It happened at the right time, and then it was a touch on later on. I went back, but no, I've still got. I still see. I've been up maybe 3 or 4 times in the last season or so, and I see Graham Scott and a bit of crack with Graham Scott, and I'll speak to young Richard Forsyth, and they've got a very strong committee. Obviously, Davy Simpson was there when he played when I was there, and Derek Thompson played as well. So yeah, look, these guys they've got the club going in the right direction. I think they finished 3rd or 4th this year, so they've obviously got a bit of investment. They've got a hard-working committee, and it's just a credit to the guys that are involved. And it's one of the clubs that when you move on to different clubs, I mean, you see, I've had more clubs than Jack Nicklaus. You look at, you used to get the green final, or even when I was in Australia, I'd be on the internet looking for Bucky Thistle and the Rothes result, because I mean I felt myself that Rothes was my first love, my first Highland League love, so to speak. But yeah, look, it was a learning curve, and as a 18, 19-year-old, and playing with a guy like John Teasdale. John, I mean, you guys know better than me. John was a character, and he brought the best out of people, even though he didn't like Niche for sticking his flag up. But anyway, no, I did. I enjoyed my time, and apart from that smell, but it doesn't seem too bad now. But you guys will be used to that.
The Puree, Martin.
Right.
Yeah. You mentioned
quote of the night, Dave.
Dave,
quote of the night has got to be Tommy Madden would make your ears bleed. Said Paul D'Arcy.
You mentioned John Teasdale there. You realise that John was over in the States. Well, I don't know if he still is. He maybe still is. But John was a chauffeur to a very famous film star, and he landed up being the boyfriend to this very famous film star. I'm sure you can all name her.
Yep.
Elizabeth Taylor.
Nah, behave.
Well, she was the star of The Exorcist, Linda Blair.
Linda Blair.
Linda Blair, yeah. So maybe if we ever get John on, he can tell us a little bit more about life with Linda Blair.
John is, John, I mean, we went through a bit of personal heartbreak a couple of years ago. We lost himself, my wife lost a baby at 29 weeks. And John was one of the first guys to send me a message. And he's living in LA. And he says, "Look, D'Arcy, if you want to come out just to get away from it all," and I thanked him, but it was just a bit too much too soon for us. But yeah, no, he's a tough. And I was up. One of my wife's pals is Isla Benzie, and she's on the Elgin City Committee. And I was up, and I was in the boardroom speaking about the Tatars, and Mr. Hollywood Johnny T just strolled in, and it was actually good to see. I think he was back for his mum and dad's golden wedding a couple of years back. But he's a character. But the Highland League was full of characters.
Thank you for that, D'Arcy. That's fairly shortened the summer.
Sorry.
I'll give you a clue, guys. The numbers down the right hand side is the times, but we're only 30 minutes behind schedule. 30 minutes into the show.
I better go get someone a beer.
Martin, you've been on trial with Dundee United. You've faced the wrath of Jim McLean. You agreed to sign for Elgin City, and then a certain Mr. Patterson gets in touch.
Yeah, but if I could just go back to Thain, I was saying that cup final 1986, I was a ball boy that day. 13-year-old ball boy.
Thanks, Martin.
Huntley played Deveronvale. Back to the Elgin thing. Well, Mike Henry told me this later on. He might become a coach at Huntley, and he become the chairman at Huntley. That the first time he seen me play, he told Elgin, "Get him signed right now." But I mean, that didn't happen. It was a few games in, obviously after the Dundee United thing and all the rest of it. At that time, Mike Winton was a manager, so Mike Winton would phone me. And this is back in the day for us, no mobile phone, so on the house phone, you're waiting at get a phone call from Mike Winton, and I agree. I just agreed in principle to sign for Elgin, and this was at the weekend. And I said, he told me, we'll sign you on Wednesday night up at Elgin. So I says, all right, okay, fine. But on the Monday night, Huntley were playing, Elgin City Youth was playing Huntley Youth at Christie Park. So I'm doing the game, and there's a boy, he used to help out Jimmy Anderson with the team lines and everything. He's tried to get to me, and every time he got near me, Tiger appeared. F off, you're not speaking to him, Ken. This went on before the game, even when we walked in at half time, at the end of the game, you're not speaking to him, Ken. But the thing, if it happened, the Elgin boys went away home. I was still there because also I just walk up the road. He says, Pelly wants to speak to you. Can he phone you the morning's night? So I just said, aye, okay. So I got a phone call for Pelly on the Tuesday night. And I'm not one of these, I wanted to play for Huntley because I had no intention of playing on a standard or fit, but I mean, I played cricket, I played golf, I played fitbit, and that was it. But Pelly, bear in mind, he's never seen me play, by the way. This is just taking the word if I have seen me play, it's told him that. But he says, how can a boy for Huntley be scoring goals for Elgin City Youth team and he's not at Huntley, Ken? So I phoned him, and then very persuasive that he is, Ken. This is what he thought was going to happen at Huntley, and he wanted me to be part of it. Whether it was because I was a Huntley boy and that might have made a difference to the punters, I reckon. But so I agreed to sign for Huntley, and this is what I let myself do in a wee bit by agreeing to sign for Elgin. That. So I had to phone Mike Winton, and to be fair to Mike totally understood. And but I had to phone Tiger and tell him, and I can understand why he was disappointed because he gave me that chance to play again. But I think he knew, try to keep that boy away from me. He says, if Pelly got to speak to me, that would be it again, and that's what it transpired. So I went for the Sunday signing for Elgin to the Friday night signing for Huntley. So I've got to go to the GA in Huntley and meet Pelly, Forbes and Jimmy Anderson, that's his secretary. Forbes actually at a wedding. The guy for Huntley Amateurs with me, for some reason, it stuck in about 3 hours. And Forbes kept coming back up. Is he signed? Is he signed? No, he's not signed. Why is he not signed, Ken? We voted then, and it cost Huntley the princely sum of £100 and some fitbits to sign me for the amateurs. But Jim Penny, the manager of Huntley Amateurs, still has the cheque. He never cashed it, Ken. He still got a cheque. He wasn't wanting nothing for me. He was just wanting me to get a chance. So Jim, he shows me this cheque for Huntley for me, Ken. £100.
And what was the style and Pelly's conversation with you at the time? I mean,
laid back.
I'm sure.
No, he's very persuasive. I mean, I can't mind the ins and outs. It was so long ago, but it was just that he could see, this is what I can see happening at Huntley again. We can get us boys in, we can win things here type thing. But I mean, I wasn't worried about that. I mean, the better thing for me was I could have walked down the road to the training and the game and everything. I mean, I was miles away from that. I mean, that was on a Friday night, and I played for Huntley. My first ever game was against Bucky on the Wednesday night. We won 1-0, but I was playing right midfield. This is what I played for almost 2 years. And you spoke earlier about Martin Lyle. We played Caley up here, and I was playing against him. And you ken how big a guy he was, and I was just like a scraker, loon, ken. And bang, hit me. Fair tackle, just far too strong for me. That was my first time hospital, Regmore. So, hospital job for him. No, nothing wrong with me. I thought it was a broken leg, but it turned out not to be nothing like. So back to playing right midfield against Bucky. Played the whole game in it. And then on the Saturday, luckily scored my first goal against Keith. Against Thain.
I can't believe we're both on the same show. He scored 100% of his goals against me.
Yeah. I mean, that was the start. I mean, I scored 5 goals in the first 8 games, and I wondered how I managed to do that for right midfield, because I didn't like it. I'd never say I'd want to play there, but it was so hard, getting up and doing and up and doing. A lot of times you're not seeing the bar, it was just up and doing. And then a couple of years that changed, but that was me signing for Huntley.
But you had a good engine in you, Martin. You could be and cope with that at the time.
I maybe back in, I could go up and doing like
Martin, you said you started off at centre half when you were playing in the amateurs. I wish you'd stayed at centre half.
Aye, that was a juvenile centre half. I was absolutely hopeless, and I couldn't heed the bar, couldn't tackle, so I have no idea what I was playing here.
Martin, fascinating stuff. I'll pass Dave on now.
Yeah, the man that signed you for, well, the club you'd love with for a long, long time, Keith, was a former professional footballer himself, of course.
That's right, Jimmy Wilson. Jimmy had great success. He firstly as assistant to Bobby Wilson at Keith, and then as a manager in his own right. And Jimmy remains a great friend. I haven't seen him for a couple of years, but I saw him at Ian Taylor's 70th a couple of years ago. Jimmy's a super guy, although unfortunately he left the club about 3 weeks after signing me. I don't know if that was the death knell or what it was, but we mentioned, Martin, you spoke, sorry, Martin.
I think it might have something to do with a qualifying cup tie at Rothes.
That's right. Well, in fact, I think what actually happened, Martin, you're spot on there. We touched, you mentioned Bruce Martin earlier on. Well, Bruce Martin was the legendary skipper of Keith and Bobby and Jimmy's great years. He was assistant manager to Jimmy when I signed. And Bruce had actually been, I played for Deveronvale on the Wednesday night, one Wednesday night at Elgin against Borough Briggs. We got walloped 6-1. Freezy Kellis, wide left, ripped us apart. And on the Friday, I got a phone call from Bruce Martin, and he opened with the fateful words, "Ian, it's Bruce Martin here from Keith. I watched you at Elgin on Wednesday." I thought, maybe on the way, he's phoning then. So anyway, the conversation went on, and most of the conversation I had was with Bruce. So anyway, a deal was agreed that I would sign for Keith. The chap in goal at the time was a guy called Brian Milne, who'd played in goal for a couple of years after Bobby Gray, and Brian won a lot there in his 2 years, and Bobby obviously an awful lot more before that. But the deal was struck, but I could have signed that week, if I remember rightly, but Keith, as you say, were at home to Rothes in the qualifying cup on the Saturday, and I couldn't have played in that game anyway, whether they'd wanted me to or not, because I'd already played in the qualifying cup for Deveronvale that season, so I'd have been cup tied. So what they said to me was, Cove Rangers just come into the league. Deveronvale were due to play at Cove. So the arrangement was I'd play my last game for Deveronvale at Cove, because it gave me my first experience, as it was for everyone at that time, of playing at the tight confines of Allen Park. So they said, go and play there, and then after that, we'll sign you on the Saturday night. So I said, yep, fine. Everything was agreed between the clubs, and I knew that, with the greatest respect to Rothes gentlemen, Keith at that time were expected to beat Rothes. So I knew that being cup tied, I might have to bide my time to get a chance in the first year, because obviously I couldn't play assuming Keith remained in the cup. So anyway, it was one of the shocks of that season. I think it was at Kynach Park, if I remember, Martin, and Rothes won 1-0. Pretty sure.
I'm not sure if it was Rothes in my time beat Keith twice in the qualifying cup. I think the tie at Kynach Park was when Dave Laurie made his debut for Rothes.
All right, okay.
Went through to Pataudry on the Friday afternoon, met Fergie and did a deal, and I think he saved a penalty in that game. I seem to think the cup tie in question was actually at McKessick Park. But either way, Jimmy was looking for a job come Monday morning, I believe.
It was a wee bit longer than that. It was a wee bit longer than that, because it would have been September anyway, because that night, the Saturday night, I came back from Cove. I was living in Aberdeen at the time. Bruce Martin, crestfallen as you can imagine, came round to my house to complete the signing that we'd arranged the meeting for anyway. I trained on the Monday with Keith, and having played my last game for Deveronvale at Cove on the Saturday, we lost 3-0. I then made my debut for Keith on the Wednesday at Kynach Park, also against Cove, and we drew 1 each. We were a goal down. Brian Johnson scored, and then Charlie Barber scored a typical 30-odd yarder, probably 40-yarder, knowing Charlie Martin, you know, to get us a draw. So we drew 1 each there. We played Inverness Thistle, I think, on the Saturday, and we lost 3-0 at home. So as you can tell, we weren't on a good run. And I think I'm sure I only had maybe 2-3 games under Jimmy before he was gone. So again, you never know how football works. It's a bit like life, isn't it? You know, at the time, Dave Watson was doing very well at Buckie, and he was a possibility to come in at Keith as manager. Now, I know Dave very well now. I don't know what his thoughts were on me as a goalkeeper, but your thoughts are, you've just arrived at the club and the manager who's signed you is gone. You know, does a new manager come in, doesn't fancy you, and everything changes? Well, as it turned out, I think Dave might have been offered the job. I'm not sure. He didn't. He turned it down if he was, and he stayed at Buckie. Bruce Martin was offered the job and took it, and you know that obviously helped me, and things went on. Things went on from there. I'd 16 very, very happy years there. They certainly weren't fruitful. I think probably notable for the longevity rather than for the success. For a club like Keith and for everything that they've won, in my 16 years, we only had four winners. Don't get me wrong, there's better players than me don't have 4 winners' medals. But to show you how it worked, my first 3 medals came in 3 different decades. So I don't know if that's some sort of record. We won the League Cup in 1988 against Caley in a replay. The replays in those days at Borough Briggs. And then we didn't win anything when the Aberdeenshire Shield in 97 against Peterhead at Banff. And then we won the championship in 2000. So 3 different decades. Martin, you used to win that in about 6 months, but you know. Yeah. So, you know, the only thing I would change about my time, Dave, is that obviously I would love to have been more successful. We got close to so many things, and we were also, you know, the first half of my Highland League. D'Arcy's talking there about the Caley Thistle County days, D'Arcy, and you know, the first 10 or 11 years of my playing career, Deveronvale and Keith was in those days Caley Thistle County, Elgin Peterhead, obviously. And they were fantastic days, you know, so maybe it was no disgrace not to be as successful, but no, fantastic times, and great people as Keith, as there are throughout the Highland League.
Thanks for that, Thain. Back to you, Martin.
Paul, your days at Rothes are over. You signed for Buckie. If I'm right, was it Bob Summers took you to Buckie?
Yeah, Bob, funnily enough, as I touched on before, my car accident, I broke my ankle, and we played Buckie on the Wednesday night, and Bob had made an inquiry to Graham Scott on the whatever night it was before, well, and he saw interested in Paul D'Arcy. He says, he said, you can have him. He's just broken his ankle. So there was room, word of this happening, and I didn't let it sort of bother me. Rothes sort of offered me a deal, but Buckie for me were apart from playing the green and white hoops, they were a club that had a bit of stature about them, and obviously, as Thain touched on, Dave Watson, and I was guys like I know back in the day that I was quite close with Donald Buchanan, ex-Buckie as well. So it was a club that was in the forefront. They were always sort of in the mix for trophies and that. And I mean, that was until I got there anyway. But so I signed for Buckie that summer after leaving Rothes. Made my debut against Nairn, and I got the hook at half time. Somebody had actually, it was about 45 degrees. Somebody had forgot to switch a wind machine on, and I'd just come back from 2 weeks in Rhodes on the Tuesday, so I was struggling. So I thought, here we go. But no, I would come in, and we went to Rothes, that League Cup thing again, and we were down 4-1 at Rothes. Come back and beat them 6-5, and I was getting a bit of pelters from the Rothes fans. But no, it was good. I mean, would guys like, when I signed, we just signed Kevin Mann and Wilson Robertson, and obviously Ian Masson. They were really tight. They're still really tight. And I'd done the pre-season, but I was also doing a bit extra with Wilson and Kev. We down to Seaton Park, and we train Monday, Wednesday. We beat Seaton Park Tuesday, Thursday. We do the up and back, do the figure eight, then up and down the stairs at Seaton Park. And for guys like that, just coming back from a season in the League 2 or League 3, whatever it was back then, with Caley, it was a good experience for me. So Wilson was on the left, and I played wide on the right. So Wilson's pace sort of substituted for me as well. So because there's no way I couldn't run out of sight in a dark night. But it was a good time to be at the club. Jason Begg, a great relationship with Jason. So we hit it off, and the social side came back into it as well as most clubs have got. We're really strong off a partner. I remember being up at Wick, and I think it was the 16th of December. Well, it was the 16th of December.
Tell me Madden again.
That's my phone to book a time on the golf course. But the 16th of December, we played Wick at Wick, and it was Alec Guinness's last year. And we're coming up, and Mike Flowers' pop Wonderwall cover was on. So we stopped in Brora for the pre-match meal. So we're in the social club at Brora with someone else. Mike Flowers' pop was on the television. It was on the music show. It was on at lunchtime anyway. So we get to the Wick. We're under the cosh. And Mark Girling, ex Huntley as well. Mark Girling got sent off. So we're down to 10 men, 10 minutes to go. We're actually shooting down a hill at Wick. And this ball comes into the box. Now, Big Alec would never come for a cross. He was like vampire. He just hated crosses. So anyway, this ball comes in. He's up his 6 foot odd frame. He's grabbed it about 10 feet high. And he's landed in his feet. He's went, "You're my Wonderwall, ding, 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 ding." And it was just hilarious with that. And then obviously Mickey McPherson was there as well. And with a decent enough side. And then Bob actually was sort of as a theme here. I fell out with Bob as well, actually.
Yeah, there's a succession of changes in management through Paul.
Yeah. So Bob put me on a list, and I was at Mickey and Alex's testimonial, and the testimonial dinner was Billy McNeil and Jim Baxter, and Hermes were in for me at the time, junior team in Aberdeen, and I was humming and him. Sandy Salmon, who's a Bucky Loon, he was trying to get me to go. I was on the phone. I said, "Look, I don't know what I'm doing," and I was up, and it was Murray Thain. This is Mickey's dinner, Mickey and Alex dinner. He says, "Paul, you're not going anywhere. Just don't do anything silly." And a week later, Bob got the sack, and Malky Murray came in. So Malky came in with a good friend of Thainer's, Kevin Will, and that sort of changed things. So from being a predominantly Aberdeen side, it was a mix of myself, Elliot Smith, Martin Dunbar, Jason Begg, and I don't know who else was through from Aberdeen. But it was fine with going from like a mains a Bucky bus to a couple of cars or a rental car or a minibus we got. So it was decent with a good laugh, and we weren't. I looked at a couple of photographs that's been popping up on social media. We were quite a young side. The second year into Malky's tenure, we went to Fort William, and we're up 2 or 3-1. So I picked the ball up with 5 minutes to go. I picked the ball up wide on the right, beat my man. 2 centre halves come out, flicked over the head, beat the keeper, scored. So anyway, after the game, we're in the dressing room, and Malky, he's went through all the players. He says, "Darsh, you should have passed." I'm like, "Malky, you're just jealous. You couldn't do that." Now, Malky was a fiery character at the best of times. He's got me against the wall by the throat in the Fort William dressing room, saying, "I'll take you home. Let me see my pay slips," because he also made a bit of cash playing for, I think it was Hearts and Leicester City. So that was an experience with Malky. But
Malky wasn't there long either, was he?
Malky was there probably, I think he was there maybe 3 years. So, and then there was Kevin Will, pre-season again. We do pre-season, and then I meet Kevin for a run. We even run down Westbourne Park, and look, I'm never at the gym, but for some reason I was at the gym this pre-season, and I was doing it sit-ups in an incline, and I just felt something go, and so I went to physio backwards and forwards, and we played Brora probably late August, early September, and I went to ping a ball down the line, and it's just gone. I played the rest of the game, and I felt all right, but that was me for 18 months of that. Same injury as Scott Booth had, an injury called osteus pubis. So I tore the muscle from the pubic bone. So I was actually at Mark Perry's. I was at Fred Stagger and got chatting to John Sharp at Pataudry. He said, come in and see me. He diagnosed within 2 minutes after seeing 5 different physios. So that was the best part of 16 months. And then Alan, Scott and Billy Anderson came in. So I was coming back, on my way back, but obviously they signed a few boys. They signed like a Rats and Scott Anderson, Levi Stephen. These guys were coming in, and I went to Stonehaven on loan for 3 months from January through to the end of the season. I actually made my final appearance, but Billy was at me. He said, "Look, sign," and then I wasn't sure. And then Kevin and Willie Lawson were at Huntley, so Kevin's chipping to go to Huntley, and Greg Carroll had asked me to go to Deveronvale. So I'd be speaking to Martin Allen as well, but options were there, so I ended up going to Huntley. But yeah, that was it. But no, it was an experience. And then the days at Bucky, 5 seasons, 6 years at Bucky, and it was good. And I'm still I play golf with Grapies and Mark Wood ex Bucky as well. So it was a good time to be alive for in a D'Arcy household anyway.
Excellent, Paul. Thanks for that. Dave?
Martin, take you back to 1991-92 season. I think it was then you won your first trophy for your hometown club. It was the Aberdeenshire Cup, I believe, Martin.
It was Aberdeenshire Cup, and it was a 2-1 win at home at Christie Park against Aberdeen. They had Hans Hillhouse scored the goal, Peter van de Ven, Michael Watt, and we won 2-1. But bear in mind, at that time, Huntley on the other side, it was going on to dominate. And that was before Pelly started his rebuild, I would think. I mean, just that was the thing I mentioned earlier. We qualified for the Scottish Cup, and that's when the quarter-final was the biggest game of the season, Ken. I mean, when I was young, I didn't mind Huntley ever being in the Scottish Cup, so I'm not sure if they were last in it, Ken. But we beat Civil Service 4-2, and then the Dumbarton game we spoke about earlier, 2-0. So in the fourth round we'd play Airdrie, who I think went on to the final that year. We were 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go. Alan Dunsire scored 1-1. Well, half the Huntley players were still in a howling shed from the game, restarted, and they went straight up the park, 5 seconds. Andy Smith scored. We lost 3-1, but that was like the first big game at Christie Park, and big crowd and that. So that was the start of the Scottish Cup days.
Yeah, and then the season later, Martin, you won the League Cup, you won the qualifying cup. Great achievements for the club.
Yeah, I mean that was the start. Again, we'd signed maybe Kevin Walker and Marco Deveronvale, and the main signing for us was Brian Thompson, Ken Lugs. That year. Happened there.
Yeah, Brian Thompson, Luggies, huge signing.
That was a massive signing for us. Well, you speak about the League Cup, it was 1-1 against Cove. Luggies scored the goal. We win on penalties. A few months down the line, the qualifying cup, again at Cove, again at Borough-Briggs. 2-2, I think 1-0, couple of minutes to go, and Luggs scored. And then it was 2-1 Cove, and in the 120th minute, Luggs scored again to take it to penalties. So he was a huge player for Huntley.
Mm-hmm. I believe, Martin, also that season there was a I don't know how it happened, but there was a night out with Rangers players for you.
Well, again, Scottish Cup. We qualified for the Scottish Cup, and well, the first game in that season we played Stranraer at Huntley, and it's the main game in sports scene. Ken, half an hour coverage of the game. Huntley win 4-2. Again, Brian, we speak when we scored a hat trick. But as I said, the highlights were on for half an hour, and I was playing right midfield, and I certainly didn't touch the ball in the highlights. I barely think I touched the ball during the game. Yeah. So, but that was great for the two. It was great exposure. Again, half an hour on the TV on a Saturday night. And then we played Queen of the South in the next round, and the game was postponed on a Saturday. Went to the Monday night. There was a crowd of 3,000 crowd. It was like snow and Huntley won 2-1, and that got us to play Hearts at Tynecastle. So playing Hearts at Tynecastle, we lost 6-0, but I think it was about half an hour before they scored. I mean, Craig Levine played, John Robertson, Alan McLaren. I mean, they had a decent side, but the crowd was 10,000, just under 10,000 for us playing in front of. But we speak of the Rangers things. For some reason, we're staying in the Moat House in Glasgow. Why, when we're playing in Edinburgh, I don't know. But and again, you spoke of Charlie Mann earlier. Charlie was high up in tenants, PR or something like that, and tenants were the sponsors of the Scottish Cup. And he would sort us out to get into this Victoria's nightclub. Now, it must have been the place to be. I mean, I have no idea. But when we went in, Chick Young was there, and I think this year, I think we maybe had a meal, but that's irrelevant. And the word is that the Rangers players are in the VIP area. Well, do we not get into this VIP area? Oh, us boys for Huntley. When you walk in, and then you've got Andy Gorham, absolutely blazing, sleeping in the bar. Well, Mikhailichenko, Kuznetsov, they're walking about with magnums of champagne, swigging them out of the bottle. You've got Davy Dodds sitting in a booth with about 5 or 6 women.
Davy Dodds?
Davy Dodds, Ali McCoy standing outside the bar. There's about 3 or 4 women hanging off him. And then later on, Ian Ferguson, well, he just started a fight with somebody. I none of our boys, but here's a fight, and here's me for the sticks, seeing all this and thinking, this is what professional football's about. Yeah?
Had they seen Roy Breeks before, Martin?
But I will say, Ali McCoy's there, again, he couldn't have been nicer to us. Abby's trying to speak to him, and I speak of Brian Thompson. I mean, Brian's not scared. He was up speaking to him, and he's a great Celtic man. Well, McCoy and Lugs got on great. Like, he just couldn't have been nicer. If anybody's ever met him, he was just absolutely sound. I mean, he could easily have said to us, get away, man. Yeah? But he couldn't have been nicer. But that was that's near the first. It's the first time I've seen Gorham, but later on, I'll maybe tell you this. There's a pre-season, the opening of the Huntley floodlights. Forbes had gotten, well, he did business with David Murray anyway. Can you open our floodlights, Ken? Bear in mind, they'd been up for about 2 or 3 years. All send a team up. Well, it's the first team comes up. McCoist, Loudrup, Hateley, Bowley. It's a hell of a lot, Ken. Well, the story for that is, there's a boy, Mr. Devon in Huntley, some boy had some kind of link with Rangers director or committee or something. So other Rangers boys are back at this pub in Huntley. Although you only get in, the door was locked, you only get in with invite, Ken. I never got an invite, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, the long and short of it, Andy Gorham found himself and he stayed the night with one of Huntley's finest, Ken. And they're staying at the Castle Hotel, and he used to get to the Castle Hotel, so in the square, here's a milk cart. Take me home, could you take me to the Castle Hotel? So Gorham jumped in the back of the milk cart, took him home to the Castle Hotel. Now in Huntley, well, there must have been about 500 folk in the square, because after you speak there, I seen Gorham getting taken home. I mean, that's just stories that come of games.
Martin, if I can interrupt a second, I was telling just a few weeks ago, I was actually on the line that night.
Oh, aye.
I played Rangers. And I told this story then, I'll say it again just for anybody who didn't hear it then, was that McCoist had been out injured for several weeks, but for whatever reason he was made captain on the night. So Gorham was no longer the captain.
Oh, aye.
And the Toon Provost was wanting to meet all the players. He must have been a Rangers man. So there was a pre-cup final lineup.
Mm-hmm.
You want to tell us what happened?
No, they all walked off and left them, didn't they?
Everybody walked out onto the park, a cup final line out. But the only Rangers player that came out was McCoist, because Gorham stopped Abdi.
Held him back, that's right.
Martin, thank you so much for those memories. That's what this programme's all about, the stories. And that's what all the fans like.
Yeah.
Well, just on that subject then, Ian, your time at Keith, you spoke about the legendary players in the park and the managers, etc. But Keith's not any different from any other club in respect that there's a lot of characters behind the scenes, the guys who are running the club on a day-to-day basis. Now, I'll reel off some names here for you. Norman Brown, Alex Rutherford, Charlie Simpson, and of course, he was like a father to me, Sandy Stables. You must have some fantastic stories.
Incredible. All the ones you talk of there, and others that are no longer with us. Dodd MacArthur, who used to be the groundsman there, sadly gone in Fairweather. Henry Boyd, who was a vice president. You know, brilliant people. Just before I come on to some of the main names you've mentioned there, Martin, Dodd MacArthur, God rest him, he was a groundsman, like I say, and we used to call it MacArthur's Park. And Dodd would open at Keith. If you were in the far away goal, you could see the town clock. I don't know if I'd be able to see it now, but I could see it in those days. So you had an idea when it got to about 4:30 that, you know, you had about 10 minutes to go in those days. If you were at the other end, the town end, the Balloch Road end, Dodd opened the gates with 10 minutes to go, the big metallic gates. So that was kind of your signal then, just something that was subconscious. Dodd liked a drama on a match day, and perhaps many other days as well, to the extent that one day he opened the gates with 10 minutes to go of the first half. Depending on what stage we were at that day, maybe some of our fans might have left in 10 minutes, or some would have got in, I'm not sure. But no, there were some brilliant ones there. Norman Brown, bless him. Norman was our club secretary, and became good friends. I was best man to Norman at his third wedding, and I remember saying to Norman that day, he did a couple of drams in the morning, to the extent, in fact, that we'd gone up. The wedding was on the Friday. It was during the close season. We'd gone up for the wedding. So the Thursday night we had a good bucket, as you can imagine. On the Friday for the wedding, we went across to the Plew, centre of Keith, Dennis and Linda Henry. Dennis, again, sadly no longer with us. And Norman decided he would have a dram, and we were trying to keep him sober for his wedding. Well, of course, the worthies were passing drams along. Myself and the groomsmen, we carried Norman out of there at 1:30, getting married at 3 o'clock. We got him home, tied his tie, quite literally, and got him down there. So anyway, his bride, Jenny, came in looking stunning as brides do. And bear in mind, this was Norman's third wedding. So anyway, they exchanged the vows, and he turned to me and he went, "What happens now?" And I said, "Brune, this is the third time you've done this. If you don't know what happens now, I don't know when you will know." He was a great side of the club. Charlie Simpson, you know, Charlie Simpson's going in his 40th year as on the committee at the club now. Alex Rutherford, so Alex not too long ago. But the doyen of them all, obviously, is Sandy Stables, the late, great Sandy Stables. And wonderful man, great family. I was able to catch up with Joe and his wife just before the lockdown, thankfully. You know, many of you have heard the stories. You've come across them, you know, different when you're D'Arcy will tell you. D'Arcy's played against his teams and played for his teams. People always spoke about that 30-minute period straight after a game where it was a bad result for us. You didn't go near Sandy. Unfortunately for us, because we were playing, we were typically, you know, in the bath at that stage. So by the time we came out, hopefully the part of the worst was over. But he undoubtedly wore his heart on his sleeve. It's some super stories. The one thing I always gauged with Sandy was that in any club, you know, it's probably one and the same, but you would go places. Little Henry Boyd that I mentioned earlier, Henry was bus convener as well as being vice president. So Henry would come in after a game, right, bus is leaving. And of course, as time went on, you realised that the bus was never leaving immediately. And the way to maximise your time in any given social club was to keep Mr. Stables in your eye line, because my philosophy was, I'll never leave without the chairman. So, and that tended to be the way. So Henry would come in, we'd go, no problem, Henry, we'll be there. The young lads would all scurry off. The older boys, we'd kind of keep an eye. I said, it's all right, Sandy's still there. And Sandy left, we would leave, bus was still there. Happy days. Until one day at Bucky, we're at Bucky, usual thing, right, bus is leaving, looked across, Sandy's still there. I go to leave. When Sandy leaves, bus is left. Mr. Stables is raging. Absolutely raging. I can't remember. I think we actually had a win that day, but he's now raging because the bus is gone. I can just hear him. Anyway, Bill Davidson, who was on our backroom staff at the time, Bill said, don't worry, lads, I've got my works minivan here. I'll give you a lift. Now, Sandy, as many of you may recall, was Chivas Regal for 32 years of his life. Chivas Regal, diehard. Well, Bill Davidson worked for J&B Whiskey. Of course, when we went to get into this minivan, it was emblazoned with J&B Whiskey across the road. So anyway, I phoned, Darren was our skipper at the time, I phoned Stilly and I said, they were only 5-10 minutes ahead. I said, Skip, hold the bus at Keith, I'll catch you up, no problem. So anyway, we're on that, you know, that horrible twisty bit between Bucky and Keith. You know, it's the longest 8 miles in the world. So Bill's battering along there. Our erstwhile chairman is in the back of this minivan, and as Bill went round yet another corner like Lewis Hamilton, all you heard was his voice booming from the back. He said, Bill, if I am going to be found dead, it will not be in a J&B minivan. But we got there. But no, he was magnificent. He was magnificent, and I said this not long after he passed, that not only was he magnificent for our club, you know, many people aren't aware that everyone thought Sandy was older than he was. He passed away before his time. He was only 69 when he passed away, and it'll be 2 years come July. He was only 69, and Sandy spent 50 of those 69 years involved with Keith Football Club. You know, he had 10 years in the committee, he had 38 years as chairman, and his final 2 years when his health was failing, he was our honorary president. The stand is quite rightly named after him now. But what he contributed is astonishing. Only man to be, you know, twice, I think he's still the only man to be twice president of the Highland League, 28 years in the SFA. And again, you know, he was always, as Alan McRae followed him to do, and as I know Finlay Noble and many others do now, pushing the Highland League in the corridors of power. Maybe we wouldn't see that this week with a sad decision on Broda's future, but you know, Sandy was an enormous part of that in the very early days, and I always ask the question, would we have, you know, 5-6 clubs of our former clubs, being Caley, Thistle, County, Elgin, Peterhead, would we have those clubs all involved in the Scottish League now, or as early as they were, without the influence of Sandy Stables? He was we miss him yet, we really, really do. He can never be replaced. He was great for our club, but like I say, I'm grateful that I, for the most part of my career, missed those 30 minutes immediately post match. As Martin as a former referee and Dave as a journalist, you guys will have seen them. But he was great. He was great, and you know, you had the high profile ones. Martin, you're touching on the Scottish Cup there. We didn't have as many runs as you guys had, but we got possibly the ultimate at the time, that we got Rangers, and a Rangers side in 95, 96. I think we're probably in year 7 of 9 in a row, and you know, the world went mad. We played the game at Pittodrie because Keith wasn't seen fit, you know, to hold the travelling fans, etc. Played at Pittodrie, and there was all sorts of publicity going on for a fortnight. It was astonishing, and Sandy was asked on national television, "What's your final words to the people of Keith as they head to Pittodrie?" And typical Sandy, in that steady tone of his, he said, "All I would say is that with the last person to leave the town, please turn the lights out.
Excellent. Wonderful, wonderful memories.
He was fantastic. And you know, 6 championships. I was only involved in one. 6 championships as chairman, and you know, League Cups, Aberdeenshire Cups, Aberdeenshire Shields. Personally, I wish I could have helped deliver more silverware to him, but the word legend is overused. I think the Highland League's been blessed with our share of legends, and he is undoubtedly and always will be one. But great times.
Absolutely. We could probably dedicate a show on its own to Sandy.
Oh, you could.
And many other characters along with him. Thanks for sharing that with us, Ian. Dave.
2 names I'll pick out from what you said, Thain, are Henry Boyd. Henry was a linesman when I was a kid. And the other guy from Keith, we used to call him Pinky and Perky because it was Jimmy McWilliam and Henry Boyd. And they would always come together. And Jimmy McWilliam, I think I was at Henry, had one of these little, almost like a bubble car, a tiny little car, and they both got out of it, but they were only about 5 foot nothing, both of them. And the thing I remember about their shorts were about 6 inches below their knees. You know, the shorts they wore, the black shorts, basically met their socks, and they were funny, the 2 of them together. And the ironic thing about Sandy was, as we know, he was an SFA councillor, heavily involved in the disciplinary side. And the abuse Sandy used to give visiting referees on a Saturday afternoon was unbelievable.
Oh, I know.
I'll tell you, one of the longest walks you could make after a game was from the boardroom door up to the wee hatch. If Sandy wasn't in the boardroom, you got it over and done with there and then. But if Sandy was in the boardroom, you got it over and done with then. But if he wasn't in the boardroom, the only other place he could possibly be is the kitchen. So you're faced with the wrath of going up to this little wee hatch and being met with Sandy on the other side. And he quite often just wouldn't say that. He would just give you a glower and shake his head and then thump a glass with lad. Yeah, don't suppose you'll even be drinking.
Oh no, he's great. That's exactly him, isn't it? And then he would gradually come back into it, and you know, he was probably the last of that sort of era of club chairman. Forbes, obviously, Martin at Huntley, and many other great contributors. But the ones from the north, Norman Miller at Caley, and Jock MacDonald at Thistle, and these guys, you know, Maurice Newton at Ross County. Wow, what a reunion they're having up the stairs now.
I know. As you know, Ian, I was Sandy's chauffeur, as it were, when I was involved with Aberdeenshire FA. And we didn't have mobile phones then, but we had car phones. And the procedure would be coming back for Peterhead or Fraserburgh or whatever, and it would be about 20 minutes for Keith. And Sandy would say, pass the phone, dial a number. And I would pass the phone, and he'd say, ring my wife, and he went, now, Tracy, it's all my fault. Because we're coming home for a Peterhead game at like 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday night.
Oh,
but it was all good, clean fun. It was good days.
Oh, he stayed off. He didn't drink in later years, you know, and sadly his health failed also. But I mean, in the years when he would take a dram, he was fantastic, and he would come through to the boardroom. He would come through to the social club, and Neil Gibson. You talk about John Gardner not standing his hand. Gibby and John, and I've got a lot of time for Big John, and Gibby's one of my best pals. But the 2 of them are cut from the same cloth. Darcy will agree with that, I would imagine. And
definitely.
Sandy would come through just before we were due to leave from the home games, you know, and Gibby would say, "Oh, sit tight." He said, "The chairman will be in a minute," if you'd had a result, obviously, and he would come in, and he'd go, "Oh, would you be having a drink, boys?" And Gibby would say, "Just a single, Sandy, just a single." Which was always going to get, I hasten to add. But no, he was great. And the other thing as well, and again, I know a lot of the clubs are the same with this, but Keith, I think, I'm obviously got a bias, but I think Keith more than everyone, they welcome them back, the players and their families. I know my own family, when they've been back, my son and his pals have been back. Astonishing welcome, you know, if you've been part of the club for any length of time, and I was fortunate enough to be there perhaps longer than most, rightly or wrongly, but they can't do enough for you. You'll always be part of their fabric. He was the driver behind that. He was the driver, along with many others there, but he was the leader of the gang.
Speaking of characters, D'Arcy, We spoke to Greg Carroll last week, and Greg thought that two of the biggest characters, well, you know who I'm going to say, Joe and Annie Jaffe at Bucky.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, I came back. I was out in 2009. Greg and Gary Hake were a manager and assistant manager at Bucky, and they were playing a broch between Christmas and New Year. Now, the first time I've been back to Bucky since I left. I went to Australia in 2004, so it's been a few years since I've been back. So they built that, which is the social club. The brothers built that on the ground. So by the time I went upstairs in the old boardroom, to the boardroom they used, that was for hospitality, before they put the porta cabins in the back. So upstairs in the boardroom, before I've got my jacket off, I've got a bottle of Beck's and a vodka and coke in one hand. And Joe was just, and you'd see him, and he'd just be sitting there after the game in the club with his little OVD. And he was great. And like I was always one of the last to go out for a warm up, because I did, to be honest with you, I didn't really like warm ups. And I used to try and do my own warm up to the extent that I could. So Malky or Bob or whoever would name the team, and I duck up to. They've got a plaque in the wall now saying Annie's Pie Shop. So I duck up and I be in, and I get a cup of tea, 2 sugars, and I just tell Linda back. And you'd go in, you go, "When a day, D'Arcy," and Annie, they just, and she had a mouth like a sewer. She'd be effing. She wouldn't be seeing, but she'd be effing, and it was just. And she was as passionate. She was. Both Annie and Joe were Mr. and Mrs. Bucky Thistle for me. I obviously through social media now, I was hearing he wasn't well when I was in Oz, and I was getting messages from the grandchildren and that, and he was just, you know, like Joe would be, you'd walk in, right? So you walk up the tunnel, you come into the Victoria Park, and you'd walk in, and you'd see the line, halfway line, and it wouldn't be straight, and you'd realise Joe would be lining the pitch with obviously a couple of OVDs in him. So it was just him. But no, it was an experience. But like obviously, I mean, Raymond Carbno, he was there at the time. Murray Thain. So the boys that are still involved with the club now. Paul Munch, he's emigrated to WA. So the committee worked hard behind the scenes, and we tried our best. But look, for the characters and the player sort of side, as I touched on earlier on, Grapeys, I'm in a group chat with Grapeys now. Grapeys and Mark Wood are both current buns, so to speak, both Rangers fans, and Jim Layton's in this group chat, and they just give it to Jim left, right, and centre. And he doesn't. I mean, to be fair to him, he doesn't bite. But Grapeys was there. Lambie, I remember being up for the Player of the Year awards. We stayed in the Marine Hotel, so we were playing pool at 5 o'clock in the morning. Went to our beds. Following day, we're up, and Jamesy Matheson had a party. He was leaving to go to Ibiza for the summer, or Magaluf for the summer, as you did back then. So he had a party in his flat in Bucky. So we ended up through to Elgin for the night. Come back, this party's still going. Never slept. I got picked up, taken through to Kevin Wills, and Kevin stayed in Fochabers. There was a Highland League golf outing. Now this'll stay with me the rest of the days. It was at Garmouth. So I was there with Kevin, and the Fraser boys. Now I think it was Michael Stevens or Geddes' stagger. So I was Molby, Geddes, Michael Stephen, and it was pouring rain. There's no waterproofs, so they just got some bin liners and cut the arms and holes in the bin liners and wore bin liners. So it was just an experience. But the crack with it, Bucky, at that time was good. As I said, we went down to end up with just myself, Martin Dunbar, the goalie, and Elliot Smith going up and down the road for Aberdeen. Lambie was through here. He was through here every now and again, and would pick him up in Keith. So there was from going from a bus load to a car. It you learnt a lot about the people you were with. And you got to understand, rather than just seeing the relationships you built with Aberdeen-based guys was probably stronger because you're spending more time with them. And we still, when I got back from Australia, I was working for Martin Dunbar, and I still spoke to him because his son was, I think he was at Deveronvale last season. So I bumped into Martin. Actually, I phoned him when he was at a Deveronvale Rothers game, and said his son done all right. So it's Thain and Martin, as everyone knows, it's lifelong friendships you've made, and that the age group. I mean, obviously you guys have been involved for longer, but through your journalism, and was Martin a referee? I think Martin, you're a referee. So it's between your playing days, you make friendships that last a lifetime. I mean, I picked up the phone to Thain at I think it was just before lockdown, because he was doing the Mod FC, comparing Mod FC dinner. Now, it's the first time I spoke to him since, but there's no difficulty. It's just it's relationships that have flourished over the years and growing stronger, and boys you played against, boys you kicked, and then you went back into social club in a Beerway, and then you jumped in the bus and came down the road with. There's another one is Don McVicker. When I moved on to Huntley, now Don was at Elgin, and we played Elgin at Bucky. Now Don was kicking my Achilles, pinching me, and he was just a horrible person to play against. And I scored that day. We got a 1-1 draw, and I ran past him. I gave it to him. So following game, I was injured, and he was probably suspended. We were up 1-0 at Borough Briggs. Then they've equalised. So I'm sitting at the bench beside the dugout, and they've equalised. He's actually ran past me and dropped an elbow in the back of my head, and I'm like, so it was nearly on. But then, so I moves on to Huntley, pre-season training, Christie Park, and rocks up, and there's Don McVicker, and not a nicer guy you'll ever meet. He was just a diamond, and God rest his soul. He just, from playing against him to being that, but it was a relationship that we experienced the back, well, at least much about it was just basically a wind up, and then a nicer guy you're going to meet. Martin, you'll know how Don was at Huntley, and yeah. It was good. It was good, and then also moved on to Keith, and the fortunate enough to I had 22. Apparently, I was told last week I had 22 appearances for Keith, and with a wee run in the Scottish Cup, and I was fortunate to get man of the match in the Scottish Cup, and it goes back to that Montrose story I told, and it was a great time to beat Keith. But I remember picking up it was a Sun, the Daily Record. I got the papers, and then I got the P&J as well. On a Monday morning, I was working in the post office. I got all the papers, and then young Kenny, 7.5 play for Huntley. He was coming down a hill into Kincorth and hit a lamppost and got killed. So from being there, to seeing the centre pages of the national papers, to reading about this, because I also spent a bit of time with Kenny at the start of the season at Huntley, it was brutal. But no, we did with a laugh and a giggle. As I touched on, you'd be in a bus coming down the road for, be it Forest, Nairn, whatever, not quite Keith, we were back in Aberdeen at that time, but it was a shout. Thain, what time was it? Was it 8 o'clock? Yeah, nearly D'Arcy, nearly, and the songs would come on. It was just, it's changed. As I touched on, I was up at Bucky with Annie and Joe in 2008, 2009, and I was expecting a few beers and waiting around the bus, but everyone's driving. I think the boys, I don't know if the boys are, I mean, they're into protein shakes and that now, are looking after themselves. I'm not saying we didn't look after themselves, but Saturday night was my weekend, and everyone was, you'd meet all the boys and be at the Keith bus back in Aberdeen, the Bucky bus, the Huntley bus, and you'd all sort of converge, be it the Grill or the Bells, and there was no animosity. It was just a great time, and I've always said to people, Highland League was the best days of my life, and I'll just leave it there because I'm dragging on a bit. Sorry.
It's vintage stuff, D'Arcy. Thanks for that.
Martin, you were saying you started off at right midfield. You've a change of position, and then suddenly you find yourself playing a new international team at Astley Park. And I can remember that night because I was on the line. Two things that I remember is their goalkeeper wore a woolly bonnet, and the other thing was Mike Pocock was the referee, and he said, "You'll not have any problems tonight. Half of these guys won't speak English, so it'll just be a case of signal and go on." Within 2 seconds, I was being told where to put my effing flag. So that was a fairly rude awakening to international football. But maybe you would elaborate on that for us.
Was that a Huntley player that dealt you out?
No.
Yeah, I think January '93, that's the day probably my career changed. Eddie broke his leg playing against Lossiemouth. So during the game, I was moved up front, managed to get a goal, and then from there on, for the rest of the season, I scored 17 goals in 16 games. So that was me up front with Lugs and Gary White, and that was to be the successful.
I mean, that's quite a front line when you say it like that. You know, Gary White and Luggy and Martin Stewart.
Well,
for any
that
defence,
year, but I only played a few games. The year after and the 2 years after that, we scored 93 and 92, so 185 goals in two seasons. I mean, it was the thing for Huntley. We scored goals, Ken. But back to the Faroe Islands game, I mean, I read somewhere they played Deveronvale the night before, Ken, and beat them 9-1, Ken, so they must have tired themselves out because it was 2-2. Managed to score 2 goals and 2 international goals, but
just for the viewers' benefit, to let them understand the reason why the Faroe Islands are playing Highland League sides was that they had just been awarded international status, so they were now a FIFA approved national team, and I think it was at the European Championship qualifiers or the World Cup qualifiers were coming up, and they had very little experience in playing games, and they came across, and I think they play Cove, Deveronvale, and Huntley. Would that be right?
They definitely played the Vale the night before, and so does that mean my 2 goals could add into my tally now?
Oh, I would say 2 international goals.
But that same season, that again I was playing right midfield, but then I end up with a few goals at the end of the year. I managed to win the Young Player of the Year, Ken. And I'm pretty sure it was myself and Scott Murray had the same votes, and I got mere second votes. Of course, it was run by the Sunday Post, and so Doug Bailey would come up, and obviously Willie Grant was there, and big dinner and everything before the game against Rothes on a Wednesday night. Rothes are involved in everything. And so out in the pitch, big presentation, hoo-ha. Game's going okay, we're 4-1 up, scored 2 goals. That was booked in the first half, so 5 minutes for the end, penalty. You're thinking, I want to tell you I scored a penalty, but no. Lugs takes the penalties, and that's the end of the story. So penalty, Lugs, smash, goal. Referee blows a whistle, runs out at me, yellow card, encroaching in the penalty area, sent off. Brian Bendel.
Brian.
Bear in mind that he walked past when the boy was presenting him the trophy again. He couldn't exactly if it was happening again. And I guess Abdi would have been encroaching if anybody was encroaching, but it took a bit of shine off it, but it's probably more embarrassing for him, Ken. So that was my getting the Sunday Post trophy. And then luckily enough, again, the 17 goals, I got selected for Highland League Select Centenary Games against the English FA at Boroughbriggs and the Scotland under-21s at Telford Street. So that was a good end to the season for me. Bobby Wilson picked the squad. And it was great to be in amongst like experienced Highland League players for me, Ken. Because at that time, I'm just still a young boy, Ken, 19, 20 maybe. And Ken, like Charlie Christie played in that, and Kevin Brenner was, and Michael Teasdale, Ken, a young Gary Farker when he was at Blower, a fantastic player he was in. But decent team, but it was just, I mean, I certainly came on at the Elgin game, but I can't mind about the other game, but it was just good experience for me to see if it really happens in other dressing rooms, and that just set us up for if it happened in the years to come for me.
And as you say, you were just a young lad serving his apprenticeship, as it were.
Well, really, yeah. I mean, I went first right midfield for being involved in very little, just running up and down the park to playing up front, and well, luckily I scored a few goals at the start.
And Huntley were just kind of warming up to some greater things
yeah, I mean,
at the time.
The year after, that's when it started off. I mean, Pelé was only a 2 year, but he's got to get the credit for the majority. I mean, he's signed others players. I mean, starting off with Kevin Walker and Logs, Marco, Gary White, Dougie Rugby, again, Stevie Lennox, a big player for Huntley, Stevie Gray. And he signed them, and I mean the rest of it just for certainly Dougie's years, it was just a carry on after that. Ken, he just kept the same kind of players. But I mean, Pelé takes the credit for most of it. Ken.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a wee while. Dave,
Stainer, you won the Highland League in the Millennium season. What a wonderful achievement that was. That was great fun.
It was fantastic, Dave. We started that year. The year before, actually, we'd lost 3 cup finals. We'd lost the League Cup final, the Aberdeenshire Cup final, the qualifying cup final. I can't remember if it was to Huntley at that time. I know we did lose 1 to Huntley, but that was the year before. But at the start of the following season, 99-2000, we had a very average start. I remember in September, we lost 5-0 at Peterhead at Balmoor in the qualifying cup, when that was, in those days, early September. And on the Wednesday, we lost 7-1 at Fraserburgh. And on the Saturday, we actually played, so we're obviously trying to bounce back from that. We played Huntley on the Saturday, again, still probably early, maybe September, October, off these 2 hide-ins. And Martin, I guess you'd have been playing. We were 2-1 down at Kynoch Park, but it was 2 going on 5. And we held in at 2-1. We got an equaliser to 2-2. I wouldn't say it turned our season, but it stemmed the tide. And I think it wasn't long after that we went on this run. And bear in mind, we weren't even, we dropped plenty of points. We weren't looking at anything. Believe it or not, we then went on a run where we won 15 games out of 16. We'd been at one stage, I think, about 18 points behind Fraserburgh. We had 3 games in hand. We kept winning and kept winning, but we always had to. It was one of those runs that if you dropped any points anywhere early doors, you were goosed. We kept going. And we ended up, it was only in our own hands in the last week of the season. We won 2-0 at Lossy on the Saturday, and then we had Fraserburgh at home on the Wednesday night. Bear in mind, even a draw for them, I think, would have put it back in their hands. And there was about 2,000 at Kynoch Park, I think, about 1,500 Fraserburgh. I think some of those Fraserburgh fans were in my box some of the time. But anyway, we played great for an hour. We were 3-0 up. But as everyone in the call knows, you could never relax at 3-0 against the likes of Fraserburgh. And the middle of the second half, they got a couple of goals back in the space of a minute, and it was really like the Alamo. So we ended up, we held on and we won 3-2. So we played Brora on the Saturday. I think Fraserburgh had 3 games left. We had 1. But if we beat Brora on the Saturday, and Brora certainly didn't have the strength they had now, but they still had a good side. They had Billy Ferris and Alan Hercher, bless him, Norman McMillan, Alan Duff. Some of these guys were wearing on, but still good players. So it wasn't an easy game at all. But we ended up, believe it or not, it was 0-0 after 65 minutes, and we went 1-0 up, 2-1 down. We equalised with, Dar's talking about Paul Presley, Silla equalised with 5 to go. But Brora scored twice and we were 4-2. So we realised, there's only a couple of minutes to go, we're 4-2 down, we've blown it. There was an announcement came over on the tannoy with the latest score from Fraserburgh, which we hadn't thought about. We just concentrated, we have to win, end off. Fraserburgh were drawing 0-0 with Lossy. And I remember Gibby turning to me and saying, what does that mean? And we quickly worked it out that if, we'd lost our game, we pulled one back and we ended up losing 4-3. But if it stayed 0-0 at Bellslee, we'd be champions. But there was then the longest 2 minutes of my life as we were sort of shaking hands, almost in slow motion. And it was the 1st of April. We were almost April Fools. It was the 1st of April 2000. And I remember it yet. Alan Duff, who, as I say, I knew from my young days at Caley, just as I went to shake hands with Duffers, there was this shout came out from the stand, and he said, "That's it, you've won it." And as I mean, Martin's won it 6 times. I'm sure everyone was as good as each other. But without wanting to put too fine a point on it, out with the birth of my 2 children. I've said this before. Out with the birth of my 2 children, I was the best day of my life. Because I think with cups you can get a wee rub of the green, but with worth it though they are. But with a league at any level, if you win the league, you've been the best over the period. And that season, it was Peterhead and Elgin's last year with us, and Peterhead and I think but I said this at the time as well, were probably more naturally talented squads than us, but we had a lot about us. We were fortunate with injuries, and a lot of our big players, I think, we played 3 at the back. Neil Gibson didn't have any pace, but along with Ian Matheson and Mike Strachan was 3 of the best sweepers ever played with. But in front of him, he had Keith Watt, Shaggy and Dodd Simmers, 2 of the most athletic and also 2 of the most underrated defenders in my time. They played all the time. Darren played all the time. Derek Nichol played. Then we had the likes of Paul Presley and Scott Taylor. Neil McRitchie was coming through. Keith Robertson, Kevin Craig Mugsy we were talking about there. Kenny Hendry. You know, we had a super squad, boys that could come in and do a job. And we had a wee rub of the green along the way, you know, games where Presley scored in the last minute at Cove, Nichol scored in the last minute at Clach on a Wednesday night, all the sort of things that you need. Davey, it was fantastic. And we were due to have a reunion. We had a reunion arranged for the 4th of April this year. We were all going to go to Kynoch Park, and all the lads had signed up for it. Apart from Kevin Craig, he's in Australia now, but all the boys were going to be there. But obviously the lockdown came. So whenever we get back to normality, we'll do that. But wonderful season, wonderful day, just a dream. And as I say, there's better players than me haven't won it. So it's a day to be remembered.
It was a day to remember. It was a surreal day also, Thain, because if I remember rightly, I think they did beat you 4-2. If I remember rightly, a bullet header from Big Donald Allen made it 4-2, if I remember correctly. And then those 2 minutes, as you say, with the players in the middle of the pitch and word coming through. I was in the stand. I was there that day reporting, and word came through, and despair turned to outright joy. It was a great moment.
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic. And like I say, I remember it as if it was, I can't believe it's 20 years, but I remember it as if it was yesterday. But those couple of minutes, I don't know if it was 2 minutes, but it certainly seemed like about 2 hours, you know. It was wonderful. And again, for so many of the people behind the scenes, it was as you can imagine, it was a long old night. I mentioned there earlier, actually, Dave, when we were talking about the wonderful Sandy, his lovely wife Joan, who was like a second mum to us when we were up there. I'm very fortunate I still have my mum, but Joan looked after us when my mum wasn't around, but she would look after us. And that particular night, we stayed in Keith till nearly midnight, and we headed onto the bus to head back to Aberdeen. And Darren Still and I decided that we would take the championship trophy to Aberdeen with us. And as we got on the bus, we put it like kids. I was 35 at the time, you know what I mean? But we were like kids. We hid it underneath one of the back seats. And Mrs. Stables approached the bus. She knew exactly what was going on. I can remember it yet. She got on the bus. She looked up the back. She saw where Stilly and I were sitting. She knew that's exactly where it would be. She came marching up and she said, "Give me the trophy back." "Yes, Mrs. Stables." And we handed back the trophy, which was wonderful because I can just imagine waking up the next day in Aberdeen, phoning round and going, "Have you got a trophy?" "No." No. No. So Mrs. Stables, as ever, did us another good turn. But it's a bit like we're talking about Sundays there. We all met up on the Sunday as well and had a day out, and it was just wonderful. Wonderful.
That was one proud day, Thainer, but I imagine another proud day was the day you picked up the award for the Highland League Player of the Year.
It was, Dave. It was actually the same season. It was probably 2 or 3 weeks after that, maybe a month after that. Highland League Player of the Year was, and still is, you know, something I'm very, very proud of. I'll be honest with you, the way it was, and I said this on the day, I said this at the time, I didn't agree at the time how it was voted on. I know nowadays the players vote on it themselves. In those days, I think the managers voted, and I get that. But what it did mean was that if you played every game, you had a better chance of winning it than someone who missed a couple. Now, I don't want to underplay it as such, because I am very, very proud of it. But I said at the time, I'm sure there's a better way to do it. It worked for me then. And don't get me wrong, there was lots of guys. I know we had 3 or 4 in my own team that played in every game, you know, and there would be players at other clubs that did. But I don't kid myself either. Later that same day, the day that I received that award, which, as I say, I remain enormously proud of, I was actually, we had our own end of season night that night. And if I remember right, I was supporters player of the year, and I know I was players player of the year. That in some ways meant at least as much, because my own players, my own teammates in a season when we had a lot of big performers, if you like, they saw fit to pay tribute, you know. So yeah, enormously proud, Dave. I remember talking to your good self that day, and the trophy is still down the stairs. Very, very proud to be in that role of honour. But as I say, you know, it was how it was voted for then, and I won it. Happy days.
Yeah, well, you did play every game that season, but just thinking about it, there was one season you didn't play every game, because I was also at the game that day when you got winded, we thought, and the sponge man made you touch your toes a couple of times, up, touch your toes, and did not a broken rib go through and puncture a lung, and you landed up in hospital, if I remember correctly.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. My old pal Gary White, and Whiter swears to this day he didn't mean it, and I believe him because he's a good Rangers man, and I like White. No, we had a clash that day, and his knee, I think, went into my ribs at the back. Do you know, it wasn't actually the sponge man, because Bob was
manager,
gone, but it was Martin Allen.
Mm-hmm.
It was Martin Allen, Dr. Martin Allen, one of the biggest influences of my career, and the best manager I ever played for, Davey, I hasten to add. Martin was still playing then. He was a skipper, and but he's not a doctor. So what I discovered afterwards was that I had broken my ribs, but Martin's winding idea meant that the splinter of the rib went through my lung. So I had punctured lung, 2 broken ribs and a punctured lung, which meant I went to hospital. And but probably what made it worse for me in some ways, my pride was dented at all. Martin, I'll remember that.
I get exactly what you're going to say.
We were 2-0 down at half time. I came off at half time. We were 2-0 down. No sub goalkeepers. Andy Lavelle went in goal. So Andy Lavelle was a striker who couldn't score in the first half, but in the second half he didn't let in any goals, and we drew 2-2 and got a replay. So maybe Lavelle should have played from the starting goal, and we might have got something. But what I do remember about that, and it touches on the camaraderie amongst Highland League people. You know, the 2 or 3 days following, I was in hospital for a couple of days, and fortunately made a full recovery. But in hospital for a couple of days, and lots of people got in touch, which was lovely. But I had one visitor, and later on the Saturday night, I heard a bit of a furor in the corridors of Aberdeen Royal Infirmary, and I heard this voice getting louder and closer to the ward that I was in. And who comes bursting through the door but my teammate of the time, one Charles Barber, Esquire, who had a former teammate of Martin's as well, who had continued his normal Saturday night after I'd left the proceedings, had a few beers, then decided that he needed to visit his mate in hospital. So, Charlie, I'm forever indebted to you for visiting. I'm not entirely sure that the nursing staff were.
Thanks for sharing that, Thain. They're wonderful memories.
Gents, unfortunately, time has beaten us on this occasion. There's so much more to speak about. Martin, we haven't even touched on the 5 in a row. D'Arcy, obviously, you're not days, weeks or months, but years in Australia. Hopefully, you'll all be happy to come back on and meet with us again, guys.
Love to.
Yeah,
we'd love to. You know, yep. Martin, can I just say one thing, just to touch upon? We're all fortunate enough to have played in the 2 eras, if you like, in the Highland League. And when I look back, we mentioned there the John Teasdale D'Arcy, the team that Teasdale had back. There were some great sides. Ross County had a great side. Caley, some great Caley sides, some great Keith sides, mainly before and after me. the Elgin City side that John Teasdale had, I'd have paid money to watch that team. They should have won that league. They should have had that league. And also, Martin, your 5 in a row side, I'm not saying this because you're on, but your 5 in a row side, particularly the one that won the first one, which still had everyone in the league. Great sides. Some great players amongst there and great teams to watch, both of them, weren't they?
Thank you very much.
Well, guys, with your blessings, we will.
I was going to say, I was just going to read one quote. Martin scored 309 goals in 489 appearances for Huntley. That's an amazing record. Many congratulations on that, Martin Stewart.
Absolutely.
Great start.
Well done, Martin.
Have we got a head scratcher this week, Dave?
Well, I've got a head scratcher. It's a strange one. I thought about this the other day, and I couldn't find any record of it, but it did happen. In the late 80s, something strange happened at Mossett Park in Forres. Something very strange happened at Mossett Park in Forres. What was it?
A lot of blank faces there.
You want an answer?
No, you can.
No, you can. But if you do have an answer, Dave will tell you how you get the answer to us.
Yeah, go on to Twitter at the Dooney and put your answer on there, and we'll give you a mention next week if you get it right. But don't spoil it just now, please.
Guys, like I say, unfortunately, we have run out of time. I have no idea where the time goes, to be quite honest. And I would say to everybody out there, stop, pause the programme, go and have your supper, come back. A lot of guys are watching it on a Sunday morning. Nothing else to do. So keep watching the show, folks. Next week, believe it or not, Dave, we are celebrating our 10th show.
And it's unbelievable, Martin. If you told us when we spoke 10 weeks ago, it was just 10 weeks ago, and we were hoping to get 30 or 40 people to listen to this programme, and we're averaging over 800. It's remarkable that we've gone for 10 programmes, but
it's absolute nuts. It's absolutely nuts. So to celebrate our 10th show, we will have, and no disrespect to tonight's guests, we will have 3 absolute legends. And all I'm going to say is we'll have representation from the Clach, the Caley, and the Thistle. As always, stay safe, folks, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
Good night.